annual Grifties and the first ever live Grifty Awards. And now for your hosts, Uncle Hotep and Hotep Jesus.
Yo, no George, but I can't even breathe in this joint.
That's fucked up. He working on that Coon of the Year award.
Black people, am I right?
We've got some great categories tonight, including athletes.
We'll say what's up to your dad.
Season's COVID-19.
Who did you want? Hamlin? Hamlin's a sleeper. Hamlin's a sleeper.
Female, musical, celebrity, people's political grifty, the Hall of Fame, and a surprise category.
Y'all see we professional. We got the teleprompter and shit. And of course, the one everyone is waiting for, Grifter of the Year Award.
From podcasts to movies.
DJ Protocol.
Yeah, DJ, that's the time to do it.
This is not a grift. I really think Lil Nas X is a gay demon.
How dare you?
Unlike most modern award shows, none of these women have penises.
Women shouldn't speak anyways.
Y'all pick the blackest room for a black. Paint the walls white so I can see y'all next time.
All coons look alike to me.
Some of you white people too. Some of y'all look like you came from 8 Mile.
We're halfway through, no one's been shot yet.
But I'm going to say at the Grifty Awards, there's only one person more arrogant, more self-assured than me, and that's Hotep Jesus.
Grifter of the Year.
Clap it up for old Uncle Hotep.
Hopefully my kids will watch this and be inspired and stuff like that.
Fuck them kids.
I'm looking for my wallet. I'm like, oh, thank God he didn't take it. Thank God.
2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, what do you think you are, some kind of Hotep Jesus?
Ooh,
and
that's
I was
good.
Just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special edition of the Griff Report. Hotep Debates is back. Today, without further ado, we have Royce White. Royce White, you guys know him, won the Republican primary, basketball star, Big Three. Shout out to Royce White. Royce White is joining the platform tonight. MLH, a.k.a. Marc Lamont Hill. You know him from TV and academia. And the rules are very simple. We're going to have a 3-round format. First round, we're going to have 4 minutes, 2 minutes apiece for each gentleman. Then after that, we're going to take the gloves off and allow them to spar for about 15 minutes. And in the last 15 minutes, we'll be closing arguments. And at that point, I'll be more stringent in how I allow people to speak and no cutting off. In the middle period, if they cut each other off, I'm going to let a lot of that stuff slide. I got to be honest with you because I want to see how these two intersect. If it ever becomes a point where it's the audience can't hear, then I'll jump in and say, yo, and I'll be fair and say who should give their point. Okay? Let's flip a coin. Mark, what you got? Heads or tails? Or Royce, heads or tails? What you got? What'd you say, Mark? Heads?
I said tails, but I don't care. Whoever want to. You let Royce decide. He can go first or second. Let him decide.
Let him decide?
Yeah.
I like going first.
There it is. There it is. So, you guys know what the debate is. It's election 2024. Kamala versus Trump. Royce, you're definitely an advocate of Trump. Going to set the timer, 2 minutes, and tell us why you think Trump is a better option than Kamala. And you're on the clock.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it, brother. I want to say thank you to the entire audience for joining and anybody who watches it after the fact. Mark, I want to thank you for being here. I've known you for many years, so I appreciate you willing to have the debate and have the dialogue. as a Senate candidate here in Minnesota, running for United States Senate, as you just said, I won my primary this last week. I'm obviously interested in articulating the efficacy and basic sanity of the America First movement, platform, and policy approach, which in many ways is you take care of home first. Taking care of home first is prudent, but also it's biologically hardwired into our DNA as humans. You could say it's a tradition as old as time, and even on a biblical basis, the order of charity and the order of what should be your priority is that which is most local first. So I'm definitely here to advocate for the America First and MAGA policy approach. In terms of what we face, what I face as a candidate, what we face as a movement, what we face as an American society, and even more importantly, a global society, is a mainstream media and political hegemony that has tried to caricature and frame the America First movement, Donald Trump, and all supporters or candidates as being extreme. And I don't think that that's honest. I don't think it's honest in the least. I don't think it's remotely honest. Even more, furthermore, that same political hegemony is responsible for much of the corruption that is going on in this country for a very long time. And I plan to get into some of that as we go on throughout the debate in terms of prevailing political ideologies like the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, the role of the United Nations, military-industrial complex. These have all become themes of my campaign and candidacy, and themes that have gotten me described as a far-right conspiracy theorist and other pejoratives as well. So I'm happy to be here for the debate tonight. And again, I appreciate you. I appreciate the audience. I appreciate Mark's time. And let's get rolling.
Mark, you were on the clock, sir. 2 minutes.
First I want to echo Royce's appreciation for this format, for this platform, and for him. As he mentioned, I've known him for a long time, well over a decade now, and he's been raising hell and causing problems from day one, and I always admired and appreciated that about him, because that's what we got to do, which is exactly where I begin right now. We're entering election 2024 with a clear urgency. We are on the clock as a nation, and we are on the clock as a community. I am open and honest about saying that while I care about everybody, the entire human family, my priority is Black people here in the United States. For me, caring about Black people in the United States is taking care of home. For me, the way to do that is to create space to be extremist. I believe that we need a radical reorganization of our society. I think that whether it's our values, whether it's our economy, whether it's our approach to solving problems, we cannot go with the status quo. We need a radical change. The fact of the matter is Donald Trump doesn't represent radical change. Donald Trump represents a deep conservative commitment. In other words, not changing America back to, or not changing America to something new, but if anything, making America what it used to be. Again, making America great again, with a particular vision of a Reagan era greatness in mind. He ain't talking about slavery, but he's talking about the 80s. He's talking about a particular economic mode of production, a particular cultural formation. And I'm saying that doesn't work. Now, the obvious rebuttal that I would make if I were somebody is, well, what the hell is radical about Kamala Harris? What the hell is changing the status quo with Kamala Harris? The answer is simple. Nothing. Kamala Harris is not radical. Kamala Harris is the status quo. Kamala Harris is corporate. Kamala Harris does represent some of the worst excesses of our nation, just like all these corporate bought and paid for politicians do. The point for me is not to endorse Kamala Harris. The point for me, as I conclude, is simply to say that I want to create just enough space with a different Supreme Court, just enough space with protests on the street, just enough space for us to fight so that we can get rid of all these Democrats and all these Republicans ultimately and usher in a new political order. But we can't do that. Can't do that with Trump.
Can't do that with Trump. Royce, you are on the clock. Go ahead. Start right there.
Well, I would disagree fundamentally about Donald Trump. There are many things about Donald Trump and any candidate for any office that's going to mimic what the status quo has been. I don't think anybody would advocate for a complete departure from the status quo, because that would often break out into chaos. But when we talk about the ideas, the fundamental pillars of Donald Trump's presidency, his candidacy in this race, and the America First movement as a whole, the hegemony of the American permanent political class since after World War II has been the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. And that liberal order has tried to promote itself as a liberator, conveyor of freedom and hope and democracy all across the world. But what they've really brought is war. And the third rail of government, the third rail of this global corporate community, and it is a global corporate community, is the military-industrial complex. For starters, there are others as well: medical-industrial complex, media-industrial complex, central, fractional reserve banking, central banking. A lot of these institutions are a part of the same sort of scam. Now, what we believe in the America First movement is that Donald Trump's presidency and the ideas underneath it were a significant departure from that status quo in terms of America being a bastion of freedom and, furthermore, independence and self-sufficiency. When we look at the hallmark, the sort of allure or draw into that idea of globalism after World War II, it's that all of our markets are intertwined. All of us have a joined global community. All of us are dependent on one another, and we all do share a global community. But self-sufficiency has to be the fundamental pillar of measuring whether or not we are going to be peaceful, prosperous, and so on and so forth. Individual freedom is the baseline idea of the America First movement, and we're not independent. And slowly but surely, we're losing our freedom as well. And I think Donald Trump is fighting that. Does he have flaws? Yeah. Are there things I disagree with him on? Yeah, but he didn't put us in any new wars, and he was willing to call out D.C. for exactly what it is, a part of that globalist agenda.
Mark, you're on the clock.
I don't disagree that we should be withdrawing from wars, that we should be taking care of home, that we should not be investing time, energy, resources, or weapons elsewhere. I think as a general rule, minding your own business is a good way to move in the world. Royce and I are not in disagreement on that point. My problem is that what Donald Trump often talks about, and it's not just Donald Trump, it's Republicans, and frankly, it's most Democrats as well. Again, I'm not a Democrat, I'm a Green Party member who, is making some pragmatic choices this year. The problem is we say we want to leave everybody alone, but our economic investments abroad, our political economy domestically creates the very problems that we then want to run from. For example, I agree with saying, look, let's stay out of the Middle East. Let's mind our own business in the Middle East. But the problem is we fund the proxy war. The problem is we send billions of dollars to Israel every year. And so the billions of dollars we use are the very thing that creates Hamas. It's the very thing that creates resistance in the West Bank, the very thing that creates Houthi rebels in Yemen. It's the very thing that creates all of these issues. I don't mean, to be clear, I don't mean we literally create them. What I mean is we energize and fund and help sustain problems. We benefit from the economic exploitation of farmers in Mexico. And then when they come across the border, we say, let's keep the illegals out. I'm saying if we want to be insular, if we really believe that we can protect our borders and really believe that we can be a nation that isn't as beholden to the global economy as we are now, then we also have to get rid of an imperialist and neo-colonialist foreign and domestic policy. And the problem is Trump wants to have it both ways. And again, he's not alone. Most politicians, Joe Biden wanted to have it both ways. Kamala Harris needs to say more before I know how she wants to have it. But at the moment, he's not alone, but he absolutely represents an old political order that must be transformed.
Royce, you're on the clock. This is the beginning of the third round. Royce, it's on you.
Well, first off, I think I've gotten much of my criticism from the mainstream media for being called anti-Semitic, and my position on Israel has been that nobody gets our foreign aid without conditions. Our relationship with every single nation around this world outside the United States should be conditional, Israel included. Now, do we have a different relationship with Israel than other nations? Of course, our relationship with every nation is going to be somewhat unique. But my position on Israel is that we're funding every side of the war, and it's not the money that we give to Israel, or let's say it's not just the money we give to Israel, it's also the money that we give to all of its enemies. We're funding the Egyptians, we're funding the Qataris, we're funding the Iranians, and when we have a China-centric economy and supply chain and manufacturing base, we know that the money that goes to China from every single American citizen will end up in Iranian hands potentially because they're their biggest buyer of China is the biggest buyer of Iranian oil. And then if Iran, for example, declares war on the West, which they have, then we end up fighting an enemy that we funded. And I agree. So my other point about Israel, and I'll say this, again, I've been called anti-Semitic throughout my entire candidacy here. And I think I do have a very, let's say, nuanced and reasonable approach to the Middle East and the cultural identity and history of Jews and what's going on there in the Middle East. But my basic thought goes back to being in the neighborhood. If you yell death to America and I'm American, we have a problem. Now, to what extent we need to be aggressive and come and deal with that problem on the front end is up for debate. But in general, if you yell death to America, death to the West, we have a problem. So that goes for the Iranians and Hezbollah and Hamas. And I don't care what their excuse is. You can't come to, Iglehart and Dale and St. Paul and Rondo and stand out at the beginning of my block or cul-de-sac and say, I'm going to kill everybody on this block and me not have a problem with it. Okay. And eventually, if you say it long enough, I'm going to come deal with you, whether or not the problem was actually with me or not, just out of security's sake. So that is something that has to be acknowledged. But I will say, Turkey, for example, somehow gets a pass in this entire global neoliberal order of NATO and this other, sort of global alliance where Turkey gets to yell death to the West as well. And yet they're holding on to our nuclear weapons and nobody questions whether or not they should be in NATO at all.
Land that point.
Say it again.
No, I was saying just land that point, and I'm going to go to Mark to the second half of the third round.
I'm saying, it's not just Israel and Palestine. It's not just Iran. It's not just China. Look at NATO. NATO's guilty of it as well. Look at Turkey. After October 7th, President Erdogan stands up in front of a couple 100,000 Turks and yells death to the West, cross versus crescent, and yet we allow them to stay in NATO, and we're going to keep letting them hang on to our nuclear weapons. There's a lot of hypocrisy
Mark, hop in there.
and contradiction.
Yeah, I mean, there's no shortage of American hypocrisy anywhere you go in the world, not just the Middle East, to your point. I mean, you could look in Eastern Europe, we could look in the Southern Hemisphere, we could look at South America, we could look at Central America. We could look right here in our domestic policy as well. I think we agree that the U.S. does not have clean hands. I would argue that the United States often has the dirtiest of hands. And you're right. I mean, the example you gave is actually quite apt, right? You said, if somebody keeps running up on your block saying they're going to do harm to you, at some point, you're going to come outside and defend yourself, even if you started it. My point is, as the outsider, if I'm your homie, I'm going to say to you at some point, yo, bro, you started that. You can't keep starting shit and expecting people not to clap back, right? That would be my response to you. I'm saying the United States is institutionally and structurally committed to keep continuing to start shit. Some of it is the liberal ideology that we have to go and save everybody. Some of it is the cynical conservative or neoconservative ideology that we need to control everybody, even sometimes under the guise of saving them, right? Like, white men saving brown women from brown men. We're going to go and liberate the Afghans. We're going to liberate Afghanistan. We're going to liberate Pakistan. We're going to liberate all these people. So I think that's absolutely correct that we have to reimagine what that looks like. But when you reimagine what that looks like, you also have to have a different vision of what the global order can look like. It has to be one where we don't completely dominate the entire world. It has to be one where people in the global south, people in the third world have access to living wages. And it does mean for everyone's collective prosperity that we may have to give a little, meaning that, yeah, them Nikes might cost a little bit more, but now children aren't working in sweatshops in Latin America, right? Yes, I want the job here to stay in Ferguson so that police aren't collecting taxes on the street and shooting Mike Browns or whoever, right? They're not harassing people on the street, right? Whatever you think of Mike Brown, I'm just talking about how the interaction started because of basically jaywalking, which was not something you should be taxing somebody for. But Emerson Electric left the United States and went to the Far East or the Near East. And so you end up with no jobs in a town that's broke. And then policing becomes our mechanism for collecting money. So the instruments of war, the instruments of policing, the instruments of the military and industrial complex, as you accurately pointed out, are all bound up together in a system that continues to have the dominant and the dominated. And I'm saying we have to be willing to reimagine that. And that's the ethical and moral not reform, but really radical revolution that we need. I think that where you and I probably agree the most is that we think that the current world as it is ain't working. The question for me is simply, what do we do to change it? How do we get there? And who is the best person to get us there? I don't think...
Laying your point, Mark.
I don't think Kamala Harris is the best person to get us here. I don't think Donald Trump is the best person to get us here in the context of their beliefs, ideology, or history. But we only got two practical choices right now. And for me, what Kamala Harris gives us is not a different vision, but just a little bit more space for us to fight, a little bit more space for us to have actions and programs and policies that get us somewhere. I think she can be moved in a way that the Donald can't. That's all.
All right, let's land right there. Royce, this is the top of the fourth round and final round of this series. Then we'll open it up. Royce, go ahead. You're on the clock. 2 minutes.
Yeah, well, I gotta fundamentally disagree with you on that one, Mark. I hear what you're saying, and we do have to reimagine our role in the world. First and foremost, the America First movement believes in a radical change of how we deal in the world, especially around our foreign policy and foreign trade. As far as the material issues go, I'm not even so sure we need to be getting tennis shoes or any other, casual consumer products from China whatsoever. We need to totally reimagine American manufacturing, and that's probably one of the central focuses of the America First movement. Now, if we're able to do that through the legislative branch and through cooperation, if Donald Trump is elected or when he's elected, that's another story entirely. And there's a lot of the same forces who talk about those conditions all around the world who have tried to railroad and impede America First candidates like myself who want those basic and rational changes, and they call us extremists and conspiracy theorists. I've experienced it myself now, coming through a primary and now into a general election cycle. But I got to disagree on Donald Trump and Kamala Harris on face value. There's only one president in recent memory who threatened to pull out of NATO. There's only one president who threatened to pull out of the Paris Climate Agreement. There's only one president that threatened our fundamental relationship to the United Nations and these other governing bodies. There are two parties here, and as I see it, the core difference between the two party platforms, let's say Democrat and Republican, and I don't even like to go there because it's a wash. There's so much corruption on either side of the aisle. But ideologically, the fundamental difference is the Republican Party does prioritize limited government as an idea. Now, how that plays out, another debate, and nobody has a bigger problem with neocons than I do. But the Democrat Party has hung its hat on the infinite expansion of the federal government, and by proxy, now the connection to the aspiration for global government. So, the Democrats and socialists and all of these people who have the populism in mind on the left can talk about that from an ideological standpoint, but from an institutional standpoint, the Democrat Party is in lockstep with the globalist agenda, and by proxy becomes in lockstep with endless wars like the one there between Russia and Ukraine.
Mark, this is the end of the fourth round, and we'll open it up. 2 minutes, you're on the clock.
First, I think there's a contradiction between saying that you want to radically change the world and saying you're not an extremist. I think saying you want to radically change the way the world moves is an extreme position. I'm
not the way they use it, but
no. This is a free 2 minutes, no cutting off yet.
Yeah,
okay.
But I appreciate what your point. My point is let's run toward it. I'm saying it's not as a debate point, but I'm saying let's run toward it. If the world is broken, you need an extreme response. Let's not let them have the language of extremism. Let's say, look, yeah, we are extreme. The world right now is on one crazy extreme, and we need to have an extreme response to it because this shit is crazy. I think that's an actual reasonable. You probably can't say this shit is crazy on a debate stage, but the rest of it you can probably rock with. When we talk about you're right. Trump has done some things that are radically different than everybody else. The Iran deal, the Paris Climate Accords, all these things. The problem is the moments where he decides to depart from the status quo, he chooses the worst possible policy choices. I'll give you a concrete example. I mean, although I think the Paris Climate Accords is a great one. And when you look at the Iran deal, the global community, there's a level of consensus that the Iran nuclear deal, that the entire sort of international community agreed with, in general, helped actually keep Iran manageable. It allowed for proper weapons or uranium enrichment inspections. It allowed for all the measures to keep Iran in a place of not proliferating a nuclear weapon. But we could also argue, again, there's a selective outrage here because we don't want Iran to have a nuclear weapon, but we're totally fine with Israel having one, even though Israel is not party to the nuclear non-proliferation agreement, even though Israel's not supposed to have one. We all know they have it. I've been by the nuclear facility myself. So but again, we're selective and we can't continue to move in that way. I think we have to think about what these deals look like. Trump took an extreme approach and said, I'm going to cut the United Nations Relief Works Agency just for Palestinians, right? That's just one example. But if we take the Palestinians off the table for a minute, although I would argue cutting UNRWA created a level of desperation and urgency that leads to October 7th, that leads to us being involved and having to spend billions of dollars, which again, if you care about domestic product, then America shouldn't be spending billions of dollars there. We should be investing in our communities. We should be investing in small businesses. We should be investing in education. We should be investing in infrastructure. But we can't do that if we keep sending money over there to fight other people's imperial wars. So at the end of the day, we have to do that, but we have to do that in the context of global community. I'm not talking about global political economy. I'm talking about global community in the sense of, I don't want to withdraw from the United Nations. I don't want to withdraw from the International Criminal Court. I don't want to be departed from the International Court of Justice.
Lay your point, Mark.
There's a way that Donald Trump doesn't want the United States to be held accountable for anything. And when you end up with systems that are only hold poor people accountable and Africans accountable and global Southerners accountable, then what you end up with is a replication of imperialism and colonialism in the 21st century.
Ladies and gentlemen, first round comes to a conclusion. We're about to open up the debates. We're going to go back to Royce and we're going to open it up real quick. Let's show some love to the people. Shout out to C. Mun Snow with the 1 sub. Kamar Daniel with the sub. Shout out for the gifted subs.
Oh, this a real hotel.
The Senator Loki with the 5 gifted subs. What up, Loki? Loki in the house.
This a real.
He's a fan favorite. Shout out to Roscoe with the 10 gifted subs. Shout out to Roscoe. What up, Roscoe?
This a real hotel, brother.
10 gifted subs. It's Christmas in the chat right now. We're going to open it up. Royce, let's go right back to you. How do you respond to Mark right there?
Well, I mean, a lot was said there, but let's make a distinction. Israel has, and look, if anybody's going to make it seem like I'm shilling for Israel, all you have to do is go look at how much they've called me anti-Semitic and how much criticism I've had for Israel as a government. And not only that, but the narrative that exists between the West and the rest of the global community, even more specifically, Christians and Jews and so on and so forth. But the one thing that I can say with 100% certainty is that the leaders of the Israeli government are not screaming publicly to annihilate any of their adversaries or enemies in that region. They have not screamed, we are going to annihilate the Iranians. We are going to annihilate. In fact, one of the hallmarks of Donald Trump's presidency was that many of the Middle Eastern leaders were ready to sign the Abraham Accords before he, was no longer in office. So there are a lot of Middle Eastern countries there that have ideological, spiritual, cultural differences than Israel, but were willing to come together in the interest of peace. Now, part of their interest was also business and global business. So you get a sort of Trojan horse in that we're furthering globalism on the back of peace. And that has been the hallmark, again, of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order. So I'm not saying that that's the best and final answer. But as far as who's allowed to have nuclear weapons or not, again, when a country's leaders openly say death to my country and death to me as a citizen, I have to take that differently than the encroachment, let's say, of Israel, rightful criticism, on their neighbors, on the Palestinians and settlements and those things are different threats and risks and let's say, different transgressions, different, national security considerations than a country that openly says death to the West every time they get a chance. I'm just not jacking that. Like, if you say I'm going to shoot you the first time I get a chance, I'm not going to let you have a pistol if I can help it. Now, if I can't help it, I got to deal with you the way that I have to. I don't have a choice in the matter. But if I have a choice, I don't want to be a part of a United Nations that pretends to oversee Iranian nuclear development, because I don't believe that they have the surveillance that they think they do. I don't, and on the same accord, and on the same line of thought, my criticism of Israel after October 7th was that they made the claim they could go into Palestine and precisely locate Hamas separate from the rest of the Palestinians, when the lead up to October 7th would suggest that they have a crisis of intelligence that didn't allow them to see the attack coming. And if you can't see the attack coming, then you can't tell me in good conscience that you can precisely go and extract Hamas from the rest of the Palestinian population. So I see the contradiction, the hypocrisy, but we are now at a stage in this country and this world community where we have to go even deeper than some of those surface issues and think about fundamental things again, like the America First movement, the MAGA movement, and Donald Trump himself were the first manifestation of significant political momentum in this country that totally repudiated the direction that globalism and the post-World War II Democrat liberal order have taken us. And I don't think anybody can deny that. I mean, Joe Biden, Kamala, pick any one of them. They can say what they want about culture here in this country between blacks and whites and women and men, gays and straights, or the religious and atheists. But when push comes to shove, all of that ends up being WWE, so they can continue to steal your money. And they are stealing your money, and they're bragging about it. So, and if there's one thing I'll say, and then I'll kick it back to Mark. If there's one constant of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order and this permanent political class, the one constant is that they talk about equality, but the only thing equal that's happened is that people have gotten their money taken from them, stolen from them equally. And the justification is usually basic, universal basic income will be the end, but people's needs all around the world. Look, I want to be as helpful as possible, but when you're $36 trillion in debt, some people got to fend for themselves. And it's not a matter of choice. It's out of basic necessity and what can and can't be done.
So you said a lot of things there that are powerful and that I want to mainly disagree with. I think you're correct that all threats aren't the same. But I think that what white supremacy does, and it permeates American foreign policy and our media discourse in such a way that the way we even talk about problems and frame problems makes brown and black people look wild and crazy and violent and reckless, and it makes white people not seem so. And the reason I give that example is, when you say, well, Hamas and Hezbollah and these other groups have very clearly said, we're going to destroy the West, we're coming for the West. But Netanyahu, contrary to what you just said, absolutely has called for the destruction and devastation of the Palestinian people. You've had people in his Knesset, you've had people in his administration, you've had people in his war cabinet.
Wait a second. You think I'm a fan of Bibi Netanyahu?
No, not at all. I'm
Okay.
just challenging the facticity of the point you made that he
No,
has.
but the point, the one distinction I'll make.
Let me finish.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to read one quote from Netanyahu where he said, "Remember what Amalek has done to you." Right? He said Hamas is committed to completely eliminating this evil from the world.
This was after October 7th, right? I just want to get the time period right.
That's exactly right. So
this is recent.
Yeah, that's what I could go back multiple times, right?
Okay.
Because remember, the formation of Israel itself is not people encroaching on their neighbors as you characterize it. It was settler colonial land theft. They literally it would be like saying we encroached on the Native Americans here in America. We didn't encroach on them. We took their land. We killed them. We committed genocide. We committed ethnic cleansing. And I'm saying that's what's happening there. And when Netanyahu uses the Bible and Amalek in the book of Samuel to talk about killing the women, the children, the infants, the babies, and his entire war cabinet does the same thing. I'm just saying, and I think you would concede this point, that he's going beyond just tough talk. He's getting into the same place that all white supremacist settler colonial leaders have done. And I think you're right. You don't like Netanyahu, but I'm saying that it's not enough.
I'm not saying I don't like him. What I'll say is I take him for what he is.
Fair enough. And I'm saying that what he is just the business manager of a neo-colonial ethno-state in the same way that every U.S. president in some form or fashion is managing the same empire. And you can get different drivers, but you don't necessarily get a different direction. And to your point about how sort of the left, or not, it's not really the left, but how the Democratic Party, who I don't regard as the real left, mostly, the Democratic Party has kind of replicated, or even maybe even worsened, some of our most destructive foreign policies and most destructive practices as a nation. I don't disagree. I'm saying the same thing you're saying. And that's why, if it were up to me, if I were deciding my presidential choice purely based on foreign policy, I may make a different decision. So you and I might not disagree about the foreign policy. I mean, we will disagree about the foreign policy, but that's not where I hang my hat. Again, I said Black America first. I said, as a descendant of American slavery, as a Black person whose family on both sides has been here since day one, I'm saying, how do we get what's ours? I'm not asking for a handout or a check only, although I do think we deserve a check to repair the damage done. I'm also saying we need investments in our community. We need space to build. We need space to grow. And Trump isn't just pulling out of global accords. He's also leading, and this is the last thing I'll say, he's leading, and he's sanctioning, and he's normalizing a set of domestic policies that leads to an erasure of our history in schools that would remind us of the possibility of Black Wall Street. He's leading to You might disagree. I actually want to hear what you have to say about this.
Okay.
When I look at Moms for Liberty, when I look at Project 2025, when I look at all of
Come
these,
on, Mark, you're my guy. Don't be doing that on this podcast, man.
These attempts to silence free speech and dissent. I'm saying, look, baby, we have to do better than this. And I'm saying, I want to hold space for Black people to do for self, but we can't do for self if we close the opportunities.
You my guy. You know, I know you a long time, but first off, let's take this one piece at a time. Let me start with the Israel piece again. I think you proved my point. Is there a hatred on both sides? Absolutely. Is it a passionate hatred that stems back since time immemorial? Absolutely. It goes back well before the formation of Israel, the modern formation of Israel. It goes all the way back to the days of the Bible. We all know that history, or at least you should, or you're not really informed about the situation there geographically, culturally, religiously, so on and so forth. But let's be clear. You kind of made my point, because although Bibi Netanyahu has said those things, you also affirm that Israel has had the capacity to carry out that destruction for a very long time with the help of their Western allies, their American allies, or as you put it, their neo-colonial allies. They've had the military capacity to actually carry out that destruction and killing of their enemies and their neighbors, and they have not done it. Now, whether or not the Iranians or the rest of those Middle Eastern countries who are adversarial to Israel had that capacity and wouldn't do it, seems like an entirely different question. And when I look at the uprisings and revolutions in the Middle East, from Middle Eastern countries, but also from immigrant communities now all across Europe, as we're seeing, and even here in America, when we look at the pro-Hamas protests and rallies, I don't see the same sort of restraint. And maybe, and you could rightfully say that the role that the Americans, or that the military industrial complex has played in the history or the trajectory of how Middle Easterns or Arabs or Muslims view the West in America, rightfully has them angry, resentful with the West. But the fundamental question still stands of, because we do have a duty to protect our citizens in our country first, we cannot be so responsible for our history. We cannot be so accountable to our history that we open ourselves up to annihilation today. And I think Israel is kind of in the same catch-22. And so, but going on from Israel, because I don't want to make it a Israel-Hamas debate. It's not clear to me at all that the way you frame this history is in favor of the Democrats whatsoever. In fact, if we talk about neo-colonialism and the colonial empire, we're talking about the British Empire. We're talking about post-World War II Democrat liberal order again that was instituted by a document or a doctrine like the Atlantic Charter, which was between Winston Churchill and Roosevelt. And the agreement there in the Atlantic Charter was that the British would relinquish their colonial empire, at least on paper. Now, everybody still bowed to the Commonwealth and pays their allegiance to the Queen, now the King. But that was the idea, that British colonial power had wreaked havoc and created this disparity all around the world. And now America, as this rising power and sort of military and economic hegemony, would restructure that, would reorder that, would re-even the playing field and kind of give a catharsis for all of those who felt a sense of injustice and wrongdoing and unfairness leading up to that point. Hopefully we wouldn't have another world war. That was the conventional wisdom. However, the British sent their academics into our universities. That was the great trick. And so we ended up defending, I agree with you, the interest of Great Britain and a British empire where the sun never sets is the conventional wisdom or thinking about how the British view this, is that the sun never sets on the British Empire. So we have defended a colonial empire, and not to our own interests. And much of what my message and candidacy has been about, going around a place like Minnesota, which is 80% white, is to tell white Americans, you're not European. You're not European American, but also I'm not African. I'm not African American. I'm American. You're American. We're American. You're white. I'm black. There's a difference. Being African and being black ain't the same. Being white and being European ain't the same. And you can only see it that way if you view the inception of America and its founding values and documents and fundamental ideas like citizenship as being pivotal, as being central to what we have to protect, regardless of the history. And so my criticism of the Democrats and the neocons, and in my opinion, is that there is now a sort of three-way hegemony of neoliberal, neoconservative, and neo-Marxists that protect this world order in one fashion or another. They play three-card Monte and shell games to hide themselves on any side of culture wedge issues. But the aim is the same. The aim is that there are ideas about America and American citizenship that are unique, separate from that neo-colonial history. And those ideas are separate. Remember, we fought a revolutionary war to defect from the crown. So to talk about white supremacy, whiteness, or America as being, tacitly sort of incorporable to the entirety of Western civilization is intellectually dishonest, because we fought a revolutionary war and instituted a constitution that greatly separates us from our British and European counterparts, although we didn't uphold that. And I agree. And that's what we need to get back to. And that's a part of what Donald Trump is saying when he says, make America great again. It's not about the cultural sort of formation under Reagan. Maybe some people may mean it that way when they say it that way or they view it that way, but great leaders have to distinguish the facts. What we're saying is that one of the fundamental ideas of us defecting from the crown was that we would have independence, that we would have self-sufficiency, that we were going to departure from a divine right of kings because of the corruption of the church. And that in doing so, if we had a nation of shopkeepers, agrarian farmers fortified by the Second Amendment, we'd have a safeguard against economic imperialism. Now, many of our neocon, neoliberal, neo-Marxists have often, let's say, sold those ideas out to cross over back into a globalist agenda for their own political and financial gain. I agree with that. But let's not talk about it just in the framework of white supremacy and neocolonialism. And look, I understand racism as much as anybody. However, the business models, the ideas, the anti-American sentiment is not just along racial lines. There were Chinese, and when you say a neo-colonial, look, if you're going to talk about the British Empire, and you're going to talk about the neo-colonial system or the way that their structure of government or their business model. And the colonial business model, by my measure, was drugs, piracy, slavery. They're not the only ones who are guilty of that in history. They just perfected it. So we all are kind of mad around the world that they did it better than everybody else. And I don't say that to pat them on the back. I'm just speaking facts. But the Russians were influenced by it. The Chinese have been influenced by it. Many of the African nations have been influenced by it, and many of them continue to play the same game. My real critique of Black folks who criticize the Jewish lobby, let's say, for example, and I have friends like Kyrie Irving, I know him personally, who came under that scrutiny. My criticism of us, even here in America as Blacks, is whatever you say that the Jewish lobby or Jewish elites or Jewish international businessmen have participated in or perpetrated, you can't say it without rightfully placing some of the culpability on us for willfully participating. And that has to do with entertainment, maybe first and foremost. You know this better than anybody. You can't talk about the Jewish elites in entertainment and not talk about the Black bourgeoisie who took the money. And the point of that is that your American values, basic ideas, are that we are independent and that the morals and ethics come before the financial and political interest. We have to get back to that. We have to get back to that.
So you said again a bunch of things, some of which I agree with this time, a lot of which I think is still off base. I like you. I don't want to make it an Israel thing, but I just want to push back a little bit because I think it ignores American culpability here. This isn't a battle or a fight that goes back since the Bible. This is a battle and fight that goes back to the end of the 19th century, and it's directly connected to the issue of colonialism. You know, when you look in,
But wait a second. You referenced. Wait a minute. I'm gonna let you go, but I gotta stop because I gotta stay oriented here. You referenced Bibi Netanyahu, who was referencing the Amalek, which is an Old Testament biblical reference. So obviously he was trying to invoke a biblical sort of framework for the battle between.
But that's the sleight of hand of political.
Oh, you're saying that's dishonest?
Yeah, okay. I'm saying that's dishonest. That's the sleight of hand of political Zionism. It's a settler colonial movement that begins in around 1893-ish. And what they do, and most of them were secular, most of them weren't even religious, but what they did was they were getting.
For sure. I'm in total agreement about this.
They were kicked out of the burning buildings of Europe. They were kicked out of these places, and they landed on the backs of Palestinian people in what was then Ottoman Palestine, eventually became British or the British Mandate for Palestine, which was again an attempt to transition from the old school colonial model into something else, but they didn't believe that Black and brown people could just be free. So we needed protectorates, we needed mandate systems. They needed to be our paternalistic guardians until we were ready for freedom. And at this whole time, while we were getting ready for freedom, they were exploiting the land, they were taking more stuff. And so the Zionist movement was not largely a religious movement, although there were significant religious dimensions to it. This is a political movement.
Mark, I gotta hop in right here and say, get to the part where you disagree, because we all know Royce's opinion on this topic of Israel.
Right, but what I'm saying right now is
everything you're saying right now, he's gonna be like, yep. So just jump to the part with his disagreement.
Well, he said that it went back to the Bible, and I'm showing how it didn't. So I'm explicitly right now showing my disagreement. So what I'm saying is that, and it's important, and you'll understand if you let me finish why I'm saying that.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm saying that because by framing it as a political movement rather than a religious movement, now we have to look at the political actors that get us there. And the political actors that get us there are the British. But after World War II, to Royce's point, now all of a sudden, the United States is the hegemon. Now all of a sudden, the United States is the dominant force. And so when I say that we have a duty, I'm disagreeing also with the idea that we can't be too beholden to our history, because one, it's not a deep history, it's a recent history, but history is both compels us to change course, and two, it makes us accountable. Saying that history, we can't be too beholden collectively to our history is how we don't get reparations. Saying we can't be too beholden to our history is how we ignore how Black Wall Street was destroyed. It's how we ignore how Black fathers were taken out of our homes through a variety of mechanisms. We can't continue to ignore history. Now, which takes me to the next point that I disagree with, that you just said. I don't pretend that any of these mainstream corporate political parties have a stranglehold on the truth, or that they have the moral high ground, right? I'm saying that right now, there are a set of political movements that are explicitly trying to take things away from our educational system, trying to take things out of our communities. And here's the thing, I don't necessarily—
Don't be doing that. Why are you doing that?
Well, I'm gonna tell you why. Because, and let me be clear, I don't necessarily think that Donald Trump gives a shit about any of this. I don't necessarily think that Donald Trump goes home and says, let me figure out how to get Black history out of school. I don't think he necessarily says, let me figure out how to tear down some or keep up some Confederate.
Mark.
I think what's happening, let me make the point before you disagree.
Okay.
I'm saying that Donald Trump is very cynical politically, and he knows that he can form a winning political coalition, much like Bibi Netanyahu, by getting the right wingers, by getting the people who want to stop, who hate transgender bathrooms or gender neutral bathrooms, get the people who want open.
Mark, come on, man.
And what I'm saying is, if you get this coalition of people together, you can win the presidency, but the question becomes what's at stake. And for me, what's at stake is we lose a sense of who we are, we lose the ability to course correct, we lose our moral high ground, and it undermines the most vulnerable people, and particularly Black people, because I can't, and this is my last sentence, I can't make
go ahead.
for reparations if I can't show the impact that chattel slavery had on my people as a descendant of slavery? I can't make that claim if they're trying to turn the faucet off and not let me have access to the history, to the stories. And it's no coincidence that Donald Trump is at the lead, or at least the figurehead, not the lead. People like Christopher Rufo are the lead, but the figurehead of these movements.
Okay, one, let me go back because I got to address the first part about Israel. Okay, I have to disagree with how you're formulating the history. And one, this shows a significant contradiction of the Democrat, liberal, progressive, woke, left ideology. You make the claim that we should allow our border to be open so that people have the opportunity to pursue freedom, democracy, and prosperity in our country, which I know you've talked about is an issue for you, I would think, as well.
That's not my position. That's actually not my position. But
okay, but that if you have an open border and 22 illegal immigrants displace black folks in a significant way, both culturally, politically, geographically, you do have an issue in black communities by illegal immigration, whether people want
that's
to
not my position.
That's fine. That's fine. But
I don't have.
Okay, maybe you don't agree with that. That's fine. But my point is this. The Jews were, in many ways, when you just said yourself that they were kicked out of different European countries for whatever reason,
Anti-Semitism.
Huh?
Anti-Semitism.
Oh, okay. Well, whatever you want to call it. I mean, the point is that they were kicked out of countries mostly by a coordinated effort from the government leaders, from political leaders, or from political movements. They were kicked out of those countries and they found safe haven, or they were given safe haven, let's say, by the British after World War II there in Israel. And now they mean to hold on to that by fighting by any means necessary. It's the same claim that we make that Hamas or that the illegal immigrants from South America or wherever else they're coming from now, Syria, China, for some odd reason, their economy is doing better than ours by most metrics, yet we're allowing Chinese nationals to come across our border, which is complete lunacy. But we make the argument, or I shouldn't say we, the Democrat, liberal, progressive, woke world order makes the argument that we should allow that because these people come from a victim, they come from a place where they've been victimized by their recent political power or historical political power. So how can we say both things at the same time? How can we say the Jews don't have the right to fight for their own little piece of the pie and things at all costs, but yet we should allow Chinese nationals to come across our southern border in pursuit of freedom and the American dream?
Well,
that doesn't square.
No, it totally squares because you're comparing apples and oranges here, right? If you're talking,
okay.
If you're again, no one has an issue. Even Palestinians themselves had an issue with Jews immigrating to Palestine. There had always been Jews in Palestine. There have been Jews in Palestine since there's been a Palestine. There have been Jews in Palestine since it was Israel. There's Jews in Palestine since it was Canaan. They've always been there. The issue was not inclusion. The issue was the lack of shared land, but instead a commitment to domination. In other words, you can come in, but you can't kick me out too. If I say Uncle Hotep,
but you're saying that illegal immigrants from Southern America or Central America could come into Chicago and effectively with the government and help Democrats like Kamala Harris kick black folks out of our communities.
And again,
the Democrats and the liberals and the globalists are settling illegal immigrants in black communities right now.
Hear what I'm saying? But that's not my position. Again, it's a straw man. I don't. The position you're disagreeing with and saying doesn't make sense isn't my position. You're debating somebody.
No, I know, but I'm talking about the contradiction of it.
But I'm saying it's not a contradiction for me because I don't.
You're saying that the British Empire and the neocolonial world order is wrong for taking the Jews into or supporting the Jews displacing Palestinians, but we should allow Southern Americans or Chinese nationals to displace black people in America. What am I missing?
The second part of that thing, that this happens, but this. I'm not saying the second thing. You're taking a liberal talking point and assuming that I echo the liberal talking point. That's
I'm not. I'm not doing that. What I'm doing is articulating the difference between. I'm still back to some of the first conversation where I'm trying to articulate the difference between America first and the rest of the neoliberal, neo-Marxist, neoconservative world order.
I keep saying that's not my position, but I'm not telling you what my position, my actual ideological stance is. So let me be clear.
Go ahead.
First, a couple of things. One, to the first part of what you said, the difference is if Palestinians said we want to let Zionists in fully, or by whatever measure, or at the time it was the government, the British government, or the British mandate allowed immigration until the white paper in the late 30s. Point being, if a nation says we want to let people in, that's different than if a nation says we don't want to let people in. If the indigenous people of the land say we don't want you here, and outside forces impose them upon you, that's where the moral and ethical outrage comes.
That's what's happening here.
I know. Hear me out.
Okay.
What you're saying is, why is it okay to be outraged about that, but not okay to be outraged about what's happening to Black people in the United States? I understand the question. What I'm saying is, I am not without outrage about what's happening to Black people in the United States. That's my point.
So you agree? You agree we should close the border?
I agree that we have to do one of two things. Okay. And this goes back to my initial point. We can't throw.
I'm just saying. I just asked that question and posed it because if we're saying this is an issue and the border is an issue, then there's no way you could be for Kamala because she has no interest in that whatsoever.
You'll understand exactly where I'm coming from.
Let's go. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is that the if we had not exploited and caused the push, then I would not be demanding that people are pulled in. What I'm saying is, I can't kick you out and then not provide you somewhere to stay. That's the point I'm making. So to me, if we're talking about our actual political vision.
So then you just absolve, but wait a minute, you just absolved the neo.
You got to just hear me out. Hear me out and you'll understand.
I'm just trying to stay oriented.
Let me do this.
Don't be in my thing. Hold on, I'll say this to you. I'm not trying to interrupt you to be adversarial. What I'm trying to do is stay oriented within these little segments. And if you talk about too many things at once, I'm not in a rush here. We could go for 2 hours. It doesn't matter to me. My point is, by my measure, so I can follow you, you just absolved the neo-colonial empire of giving the Jews land, because if you kick them out like the Europeans did, you just said that, then you're now responsible for giving them land.
And that's the difference. That's what I'm saying. Hear me out. The British are responsible and the Europeans are responsible for kicking the Jews out, but they didn't take the Jews in. They sent them to somebody else's crib.
No, wait, and that's where the distinction is. Hold on, hold on, wait a second.
No.
Go ahead. You go ahead. I'll wait. Don't worry about it.
You once. Just let me.
Yeah, go ahead.
So what I'm saying.
Sorry, I apologize. Go ahead.
If you kick somebody out and are wrongly, I'm saying you have responsibility to take them in. If I kick Uncle Hotep out the crib, I can't say, Royce, I kicked this nigga out the crib. You got to take him. No, you got to take him. And what I'm saying,
that happens all the time in Black families and Black communities.
I agree. And what I'm saying is, I
can't handle this dude no more, but he does need somewhere to stay. You got to take him.
Right, but it's not the other person's duty more than mine. And what I'm saying is, the United States is the difference is, I'm saying the United States, we're doing the kicking out, and so then we have to do something. I'm not saying the answer has to even be an open border. I'm saying what I prefer to see.
But what did we do to the Southern Americans in the Central Americans?
That's where I'm going.
Okay.
What I prefer to see is sensible and humane trade policy that just like you said earlier, isn't so much focused on conquering the global empire, but it's focused on keeping American jobs here. That's focused on making sure the people here have food, clothing, and shelter. And so then what I do domestically doesn't impact the Central American farmer so much that he or she can't get a living wage or have prosperity here, because now I'm responsible for why they're leaving. So I'm saying, if we fix the problem at the top, we don't need an open border. That's what I'm saying.
I agree with you.
That's what I'm finish. I'm like, I don't think
wait
we
a second.
disagree.
No. Well, we're not disagreeing. I'm just getting the details out. But one thing, I want to go back and talk about the Jewish thing again, and I just want to touch on a piece of history. But first, again, you are making my point. If there is one thing that can be measured, that can be articulated about the post-World War II Democrat liberal order, and like you said, the political figureheads that helped us get where we are, then the Henry Kissingers, who may have been a whisperer to neoconservative, or I mean, not neoconservatives going forward, but Richard Nixon when he was in the office. But anyway, Kissinger's ideology, Mika Brzezinski's dad, Zbigniew Brzezinski's ideology, Klaus Schwab's ideology are all the ideologies that led to this entanglement of foreign markets, and their thought leadership still directs the Democrat Party today. In fact, not only does it direct the Democrat Party broadly, it directs Kamala Harris and Joe Biden specifically. So there's no way that you could say this entanglement of international and foreign markets has any chance of being disrupted as a matter of status quo if we put the people in who openly bow to the altar of the people and the figureheads and thought leaders who created the structure.
I agree. So,
Okay.
then we're left with two impossible, from my
But
perspective.
they hate Donald Trump. Kissinger, Brzezinski, Klaus Schwab, they all regard libertarianism as a dog whistle for MAGA and, Republican.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think that's right. Not their perspective, but I think your analysis of their perspective is accurate.
Right.
I think where
one other thing though, I want to go back to the Jewish history first. My read of this is that we have gotten caught up in this conflict so much that people are taking pieces and bits and pieces along the way, and we don't look at the totality of history since the fall of the, let's say, the fall of the or let's go back to the first Roman Jewish war. Let's go post Christ. And first of all, when you can't even talk about the Bible, that's sort of a sleight of hand to not really talk about the full context of what's going on there in the Middle East, because this history does go back to the biblical days. And let's follow the trajectory now. We say that this wasn't a recent thing. The Jewish-Roman War. This is the first point you have to bring about this conflict there in the Middle East. And I say that because to go back to what you were saying, what we have to be responsible for because we kicked them out. The Roman Empire would then later become the British Empire by many historical standards. I think you would agree, but that's part of that neo-colonial Westphalian history, is that the Roman Empire fell and then later on it would become the British Empire. But the point I'm making is that during the first Roman and Jewish war, they owned that land. Even during the days of Christ, that land was occupied by the Romans. Now, if you're going to make the case that going all the way back to the Roman Empire, there's an illegitimacy to how that land was handled, well, then you're in agreement with Christ. And I don't understand why so many leftists and progressives that would make certain arguments wouldn't want to acknowledge that Christ was in opposition to the establishment like the Roman Empire hegemony. But nevertheless, I'll say, again, the Romans were in charge of that land. They owned that land. They occupied that land. That was Roman land. Regardless of how the Jews felt about the land, regardless of how the Jews felt about Israel and Judea or Palestine, the Romans owned that land. There's no historical debate about that. When the Jews rose up after Christ died, and they had the first Jewish-Roman Revolutionary War, the Jews lost that war, okay? They lost that war and they were expelled into the diaspora. The Jews at that time had the namesake of those two territories, Judea and Israel. After they were expelled out for revolting against the Roman Empire based on taxes, the Romans, out of spite, renamed that territory Syria Palestina. And from there on is when that land had the historical prominence of the beginnings of the name Palestine. And look, I'm just saying that to give the history. Now, the Jews go out of the diaspora. Some of them go into, what is known as Babylon, and that's where you get the Talmud and some of those Jewish variations of their religious and faith and cultural background. Some of them went up into Russia, Ukraine, and some of them went into Rome. And some of them, went up through Asia Minor and into Europe, and this was the start of the spread of Christianity. My point is that there's a history there. There's a history that you can follow of where the Jews went. So I just don't see it as fair now, after the fact, to go back and say, oh, well, the Jews were kicked out, and so, the British aren't responsible for giving them a land by your standard. The Romans, and then which became the British and the European neo-colonial empire, had control of that whole situation from the days of Christ. And they let whatever happened take place. So they are culpable to solve that issue. And the way they solved the issue wasn't right. The way they solved the issue was to use that area as a means to justify the expansion of the exact same ideology. And that is my criticism of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order and Israel as a foreign policy in the broadest sense, is that, yes, the Jews were genocided, were persecuted since the days of Christ, but it's not about the tragedy, it's how tragedy is used. The British and the rest of the new globally constructed hegemony of the post-World War II Democrat liberal order used the Jewish identity, history, and existence to further their own political agenda. And a lot of us in the America First movement reject that. And when Donald Trump says he wants to pull out of NATO, when Donald Trump criticizes the United Nations, even if he puts the temple the embassy there in Jerusalem, he is effectively challenging the status quo that has propped up Israel
violating international law
improperly.
Yeah, so there's a few things. I mean, there's so much.
Because NATO, you would agree that NATO is basically set up in many ways to protect the interests of Israel just as much as Europe.
Oh, I mean, there is no.
So if you threaten to pull out of NATO, you're actually challenging that global narrative.
Not when you're augmenting that suggested policy with an open, unconditional checkbook, with endless weaponry, with a commitment legally and politically to maintaining Israel's qualitative military edge. Effectively, what Trump has said is, I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that Israel is strong and stable and lives forever. He said that as recently as yesterday, and I'm saying that is fundamentally a problem. I don't want to debate too much the Jewish history, just because I don't want to get, because I don't think we disagree on some key parts of that, but I don't think they're substantive enough. I don't think they get us anywhere.
Okay, yep. Go ahead.
I want to stick at the borders. I think
go back to the globalist thing with Klaus Schwab and Zbigniew Brzezinski and how the Democrats are lockstep. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I don't want to go back to the Romans.
Yeah, I got you.
But what I would say is, again, I think you made an interesting point about Kamala Harris, and you said, she doesn't have I'm not quoting you literally, but you basically said, if you're choosing Kamala Harris because of her border success or her border skills or border positions, that seems to be contradictory and problematic. I think you're right. I agree. I was the loudest critic of Kamala Harris on her border policies. Although when she yelled, "Don't come," that probably was the closest thing you had to agreeing with her on some of this stuff. But I think the challenge for me.
Yeah, I thought she was just doing that for effect, but yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I agree with the sentiment.
Completely.
I don't think anybody believes that was her genuine position on the matter.
I don't know.
It was more of a panic of political posturing, but I get what you're saying.
I frankly don't know what Kamala Harris's feelings are, and I can only go by people's political statements. Just like with Donald Trump, I don't try to assess Donald Trump's feelings. I try to assess what they say, because there are people who look at Donald Trump and say,
or the results. We can look at results and infer the motive too.
And that's what I'm saying. Both of these candidates, to me, in general, represent the status quo. Both of them have some positions that are different than the status quo and that move them outside of the status quo. But fundamentally, America is not going to be radically reimagined or reshaped with either person, which is why, as a person who embraces and identifies with the radical tradition, I don't think that voting is the primary way to radically transform America. And when I look at MAGA, when I look at the right-wing movements, when I look at Moms for Liberty, what the right wing has demonstrated is that the way to win is not just to vote every 4 years and sit back home and watch TV. It's to organize. It's to join school boards. It's to control media. It's to control social media. It's to shape hearts and minds. It's to shift curriculum. There's a mass movement out there, and so for me, I find that interesting and frankly impressive. So what I want to do is not, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. I want to, as someone on the left, I want to adopt those approaches. I want to shift those things. I have no illusions that Kamala Harris is going to bring me some major left-wing revolution, because she's not a leftist. She's not a radical. I would argue she's not a progressive. What I want, again, as I said at the beginning, is
she's worse. She's a chameleon. There's nothing worse.
I think all politicians are, frankly. I think if I look at Donald Trump's statements,
not me. You're looking at a new one, so give me some credit.
But you are not a I'm talking about all corporate.
I know what you mean. I'm just messing with you, man.
I know. I want to be clear about that. I may disagree with you on some points fundamentally, but I think you believe everything you're saying, and I think you're not afraid to say what you believe. I think that politicians get elected to get reelected, Democrat and Republican, and they'll say whatever they got to do to get where they want to be. And for me, Kamala Harris isn't different than that. Again, I'm not, and to be clear, I'll be 46 this year. I have voted for 2 Democrats in my life, and I've been voting since I was 18. So it's not like I just have some abiding faith in Democrats. I typically don't support them. I just feel like at this juncture in history, there's an opportunity to build the grassroots third party movement. There's an opportunity to fight and struggle in the grassroots movement to win. There's an opportunity to change hearts and minds, to shift curriculum, to do all the things that the left has been doing. I mean, the right has to do all the things the right has been doing successfully for decades. I want to start doing. And I feel like my political vision is more easily attainable under Kamala than under Donald. Not because I think she's down with my political vision any more than Trump is, but because I think she's a little bit closer to mine.
Mark, I like you. You don't believe it. Listen, do you view?
I do believe that wholeheartedly.
I know you have to say, and I'm not saying you're being dishonest. I kind of am, but I know you intellectually you're trying to defend that ground. But again, we come back to this juncture.
Which ground? Just so I'm clear, I'm not sure.
Ground where you're defending that Kamala's a choice. I get it. My point is this. We come back to this.
I'm not saying she's the choice. I'm saying she's my choice. I don't. There are people.
No, you're saying that she's the choice that brings us closer to radical change. That's scary.
No. She doesn't bring us closer to radical change. I think she brings.
Then Trump does. You mean she does? You're saying she does?
I think she can create the conditions on the ground for people who want radical change to operate outside.
Tomato, come on.
No. It's not tomato, because I don't want people watching this to believe that you can vote your way to freedom.
Oh,
okay?
Amen. Amen.
That's all I'm saying. That's why it's not a distinction without a difference. I'm saying,
okay.
I want to be very clear about that. I don't believe.
But I'm saying politically, you believe she's the choice that brings us closer to radical change. You're saying in the final analysis, American citizenship.
I believe our interests are better served. I believe our interests are better served by making that choice. I think that's
okay. Can I ask you this question? Let me just ask. Let me ask you this question. Does it hold? First of all, when you say third party, let's never forget that the MAGA movement is the genuine and most effective third party to arise in this country's recent political history. The reason you can tell is because upon Donald Trump's arrival and the rise of the MAGA movement, first, before you say that, it didn't garner the opposition from the Democrats. It didn't garner the opposition from the Clintons and the Obamas and the Bidens and the Pelosi's. The first people to oppose him was the neocon apparatus and apparatchiks in the Republican Party, like Bush, the Bush junta. They were the first ones to oppose Donald Trump, which by my standards, could classify Donald Trump and this MAGA movement as a genuine third party. What I think you have a problem seeing or acknowledging,
I would say Tea Party. It was kind of
the predicate was Tea Party for sure.
But I would generally agree with your point there. I think you're.
But my point is that all these other third parties seem to have a sort of resentment and jealousy and don't want to acknowledge the MAGA movement as a genuine third party because we've done what they've been afraid to do, and that's actually go into a party, mobilize, organize, generate grassroots momentum to actually take the party. And the MAGA movement.
But hear what I said. Remember what I just said? I said I saw what they did. I watched them play the long game. I watched their strategies in and outside the voting. And I'm not saying I'm not giving them credit.
But my point is, if you know,
I want to do the same thing.
I'm saying it for a reason on a political basis. Fundamentally, if your allegiance right now is to the idea that only third parties that break from the bifurcated two political party hegemony, then just on a principled basis about how you feel regarding parties and third parties, if you acknowledge that the MAGA movement is the genuine third party in the race right now that has risen up in recent history, then you should be placing your vote for the MAGA movement.
Here's why it doesn't make sense. Two things. One, just because it's an effective third party doesn't mean that I agree with the ideology, right?
Okay.
So you're effective, but we don't share the same values.
Good. So now we're getting back to the ideas. I'm glad. Okay.
Yeah. So I don't.
I don't just want to thinly veil this about party and which structures and power bases have the chance to change things. It's not about that. We're getting back to ideology. Let's go there.
I support it because remember the MAGA movement could have also infiltrated the Democrats, but they didn't.
Easily could have. Yeah.
But they made the decision to infiltrate.
Not so easy though. I disagree with you. We couldn't have done it the same way.
I didn't say that. I didn't say easily.
And I wouldn't call it infiltrate. Well, let me qualify this. First of all, I don't accept. I got to reject you on this on the outset just because I'm running and I don't want to misrepresent the party, the Republican Party or the base. Let's be clear. The conservative and neoconservative takeover of the Republican Party and republicanism was a departure from the fundamental ideas of that ideology. The MAGA movement restored more of that genuine ideological framework of republicanism, limited government, self-government. It's not really that we hijacked or infiltrated the Republican Party. Let's say we clarified things.
Well, I think it's both and, not either or. I think you hijacked it to bring it back to what you thought it should be, the original values, right? I mean, that would be the argument.
Right. Okay.
But I don't want to quibble, but because again,
I was just making the point, and the reason I say this is because I think most Black people in our country rightly associate the Republican Party brand with figures like George Bush. Now, they may loosely know individuals like Mitchell McConnell and Kevin McCarthy and those people as well, but all of those forces are hostile to candidates like me. They don't want to see me in. So if your depiction or picture of the Republican Party, the titular Republican Party, is political icons like Bush and even Reagan some, and the conservative movement is only since the inception of Barry Goldwater, not conservatism, but the conservative political movement has only been around since Goldwater and Nixon. So it's not that old. Republicanism goes all the way back to Abraham Lincoln freeing the slaves. So for the MAGA movement to get closer back to the fundamental root ideas of republicanism was a departure from the Republican Party, again, for Black people to understand when you vote for Donald Trump, you're not voting for George Bush. They hate us.
Right. Oh, they hate your asses for real. But that's kind of where I'm going, because I said there were two reasons. One was we don't share.
Would you take Trump over Bush?
Oh, hold on. I'll answer that. I'm not avoiding it, but I never got to the second point. One was an ideological thing. Second is because you all found your home inside the Republican Party. There's a strategic home. For me, at the end of the day, there's a strategic contradiction there, or challenge, I should say. For me, I don't care the names of these parties. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want Black people to be free. I want us to live the best, most ambitious, most successful, most prosperous lives that we can. I want that for the whole human family. But again, Black folk are my priority. That's what I want. And I don't care what party. You could call a party anything. But the reason why I think the difference, again, I recognize that there are multiple third parties in the Tea Party and then ultimately the MAGA movement, as a response to lots of things, including the election of Obama, creates this opportunity for an outside agitator, an outside
rightfully so,
an outside political movement to pull a party in its direction. I want to pull a party in my direction. I'm not pulling the Republicans to the right, but I can pull the Democrats to the left. To get, that's what we were trying to do just 2 weeks ago.
It doesn't sound like you're pulling people to the left to me. That's not my read of the things you're saying. What the things that you seem to want, first of all, let's not do left or right. And even my mentor, Steve Bannon, is unjustly incarcerated because he is considered the intellectual thought leader of this nationalist populist movement, not only here in America, but all around the world, and specifically has tried to liaison to Black and Hispanic working class citizens to join the party, which had been kept out, stonewalled culturally by the titular heads of the Republican Party for many, many years. And that's part of the reason why we have this sort of racial divide of Democrats and Republicans. But he has always said that we're so far right, we're almost left. And
right, but that's why mostly I've only been responding to your ideas. So I could see why it may sound like we're not that far apart, because I haven't expressed as many of mine.
Okay.
So for example, I believe in the abolition of prisons, right? I believe that we can imagine and construct a world without prisons.
Prisons.
Yeah, that is absolutely a left-wing position. That's not if I were to say I want us to end all these senseless wars, the right, the so-called right and the so-called left, yeah, we'd probably meet that horseshoe theory. We'd probably meet and connect and say for different reasons, maybe we'd be like, look, mind our own business or whatever. It costs too much, whatever. Same thing with
prisons.
There's a way with prison reform. We also may have that argument, right? Conservatives say,
Mark, you from Philly, man.
Yeah.
You from Philly, man. I lived in Philly, man. That's where we first met. You remember when we first met in Philly?
Yeah.
Ain't no Black people down there in Philly that would suggest that there are some people out there who are completely psychopathic that need to be locked up. There's some people out there who are completely and utterly violent, predatory, and psychopathic that need to be locked up. Now, whether you argue that every violent offense could be categorized as mental illness or mental health issue, I would agree with that. Now, I would save some, wait a second. I would save some room to say that some of the violent sort of disanchored behavior starts to move into the demonic. Now, I know that's where many of the seculars would deviate and say, well, there is no such thing as the demonic. But fine, if you say that, I don't agree, and we'll fundamentally disagree forever. But okay, let's say that most violence generates from a place of psychological illness, mental illness, psychological unwellness. Fine, I can even go there. Now, if we're going to say that we're going to open up mental health institutions, you're not really saying we're abolishing prisons. You're saying we're going to call them something else. And that is a hallmark of the sort of sleight of hand that the left and the globalists do.
Here's why
Because
it's not.
at what point does a mental health, in fact, the left were responsible for closing the mental health institutions on the basis that they had become inhumane means of locking people up. So what do we do with no prisons with the people who are completely violent and psychopathic?
So a couple of
mental health institutions are out. That became prison. That was worse than the prisons. They closed those down because they said those were worse than the prisons. So what are we doing with the young 18-year-old who, for whatever reason, has convinced himself in his mind that walking around with a semi-automatic pistol with an adjustment that turns it into an automatic pistol? What do we do when he shoots 3 kids innocently at a barbecue?
Yeah, I think you're asking.
And I feel bad for him. I feel bad that his mental state has gotten him to a place where he thinks that's his only option. But I'm not so empathomanic. That's my own word. I just made it up. I don't want people to think I'm trying to stun or nothing. I'm not so empathomanic that I'm going to let him walk the streets out of my desire for some greater global utopia. That's not reasonable. That's not rational. That's like saying we're going to give the Iranians, or let's say Kim Jong-un, who the left often criticizes Trump for saying, I have a better relationship with him than other world leaders. We're going to let the North Koreans have unconstrained access to nuclear weapons because all of our impulse towards violence stems from mental illness. I mean, if we're going to do that, and I say this for a reason. I'm not just going on a tangent. I promise you that I'm pointing this out for a reason, because it points to a sort of spiritual impulse of what you have identified as the leftist revolutionary movements. And I like you. We're boys. If we weren't talking politics, we could hang out all day. But we have to get down to the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is, party or not, let's talk ideology. The ideology
ideology. Let me respond to what you said about, because you raised the question, and that's how we get lost, right? So let me respond. I want you to hear me out.
Okay.
So a couple of things. One, abolition first, it's not a sleight of hand, to be clear. I agree that if we say it's mental health and we lock everybody up in mental health facilities, you still have it's the prison by another name. I agree.
Right.
I would argue that, statistics show that most of these issues can be resolved through other means. Abolition is about 5 major kind of principles, you know. I won't go through all of them, but one of them is about, first, investment, right? And build investment in the caring community. In other words, pay now or pay later. Part of why we have so many prisons, part of why we lock up more people than any other nation in human history, is because we don't invest in the systems that are demonstrated to stop people from getting locked up.
Amen.
So the first part of abolition.
Amen to that.
Right. So that 2.5 million people in prison, how much can we slice away if we invest in education?
Because we have a death and debt culture and a death and debt society.
We don't disagree. So
right.
So there's a way here that, first of all, you have to ask yourself, sort of, what does the world look like when people's needs are being met? Not just financial needs, and not the cheap stuff, not the erotic or the sexual
material stuff, right?
The material stuff, right? Yeah. What does it mean when people's needs are really being met, right? That kid you described with the semi-automatic walking down the street, you know, what gets him there, right? There's too many weapons on the street that gets him there. Yes, I
reject that, but I know that's what
I hear you. But just hear me out.
Don't be talking about. No, I didn't say. No, hold on. Wait a second. I like you, Mark, but don't be doing that. Don't make it seem like I made a point about gun safety or gun rights. That's not what I was saying.
I don't. You didn't say that. I'm offering my solution.
Got you. Okay.
We agree that the guy walking down the street with the gun is the problem. We disagree on the solution or even why he got there potentially at times. I'm offering my analysis of how he got there, not yours.
Okay.
I'm saying that I'm saying that we have we have a couple of things going. I'm sorry, my wife just texted me like in the middle of the thing.
Go ahead. No, you got it.
I was like that. So one, we have to figure out how this person got there. Access to education, access to jobs, access to mental health, all of these things. We have to invest in it. Another thing about abolition is decarceration. Right? How can we get people out? Too many people are in jail for things that they could be out. We need more suspended sentences, more work release. We need more things to get people out. That's abolition. Excarceration. Excarceration means
Like Amy Klobuchar, who locked up a bunch of young black men as the lead prosecutor in Hennepin County.
you ain't never gonna see me defend Amy Klobuchar.
Oh, so you vote? So you're at least advocating that people vote for me against Amy Klobuchar on the basis of this prison reform.
I literally don't know enough about there's two things. One, I don't know enough about your platform on other issues to say. I don't even know your platform issue, your platform on that issue. I just know hers. And second, I also think beyond just when it comes to the Senate, obviously, as somebody not from Minnesota, I don't just think about how you represent me or my state. I think about the supermajority in the Senate. I think about
everybody, right?
I think there's other issues I have to think about strategically, not just.
I'm just messing with you, but go ahead.
I know, but again, in these circles, if I don't answer why I'm saying that, then they think I'm being coy or getting cornered.
Yeah, no, I know.
I'm very clear about why I'm making that position. I know you saying it for a different reason. Beyond that, abolition is about excarceration. Right? What things does somebody really need to be locked up for carrying a beer, walking down the street? Does somebody really need to be locked up for gambling? Does somebody really need to be locked up for weed? Right? These are all things that I think as abolitionists we can get away from. And honestly, if you were to do those kinds of things and invest in communities and invest in people, the prison population may go from 2.5 million to who knows what. And so abolition for me isn't by the end of next year or 5 years from now or 10 years from now, we're going to open every cell in Attica, send them to Africa like Nas on If I Ruled the World, but rather that we're going to have a vision of an outcome that can ultimately be a world without prisons. It's also a cultural reformation. It's also a social reformation. And yes, people are still going to say, well, what about the serial killer? What about the crazy person? What about that dude I know on my block that killed 5 people and ate them, right? I'm with you. But as you pointed out, I do think that that's a mental illness. And I think that secure confinement for people with mental illness is necessary. However, the reason why it's not just prison is one, even if I conceded that it was, I say, fine, if you say there's prison only for people with mental illness and we give them treatment, fine. But the reason why it's not prison to me is because prison is about caging people and punishing people. You steal my TV, you get locked up, you come out, I still ain't got no TV, right? I'm talking about processes that are restorative, that are whole. Think about the person who shot Ronald Reagan. He shot a US president in the head. And he got treatment and care until he was able to return to society safely. To me, that is a different model than prison. That's a different approach than prison. That's a different ethos than prison. That's a different investment than prison. And again, that's for a restraint of the few. That's what my vision is. That's the kind of radical process. That's
whoa, wait. Let's be clear here. If we're talking about the fundamental pillars of my platform or beliefs about a thing like prison, this is what I mean by a return to republicanism for the Republican Party through the medium and mechanism of the MAGA movement and Donald Trump. Of course, there's that sort of thin blue line cultural critique that has been foisted by the powers that be, the mainstream media, to again divide the political landscape between whites and blacks. And I don't think there's a bigger issue, probably from a commercial standpoint, than police brutality. That's why Black Lives Matter is the organization that has become. But if we're talking about the ideas, just fundamentally, the return to republicanism for the MAGA movement is a return to ideas that we want to limit the government, and incarceration wouldn't be outside the scope of that. We agree. I think people in the MAGA movement broadly agree that there's way too much regulation, and that a lot of this regulation, whether it be criminal or civil, leads to entanglements with the government and unjust and unfair processes that we now see even being waged against Donald Trump himself. So I don't think that we disagree that too many people are in jail for too many stupid things. And we would advocate that the federal government be shrunk to a size where you wouldn't have the opportunity even to be incarcerated for crossing the street with a beer. I don't think you're kind of arguing what the neoconservatives and rhinos show up on the public stage to argue for the political theater of politics, not for what the MAGA movement really believes. And this is part of the hidden reason why they've tried to suppress the MAGA movement, because candidates like myself. And I even think,
let me ask you a question. I don't want to interrupt you. I just want to ask you.
We don't want the government bigger, so that would include incarceration. Now, do we think?
How do you explain Donald Trump? One, not just chanting "lock her up," but which is symbolic and messed up and undermines that argument. Particularly,
that has nothing to do with casual citizen. Policing.
I know, and that's where I'm going. But when you talk about blanket immunity for police officers, when he talks about defending and amplifying police officers, Donald Trump has been very explicit about saying he wants to support and expand policing in America. And he's used moments like 2020 and moments like 2016 as the kind of the news peg for it. But
as
also,
a stopgap. Mark, this
he
is
didn't say it's a stopgap.
No. You're missing the point. Fundamentally, from an intellectual first principles basis, you're not seeing how it has to be a stopgap, because Donald Trump's entire political platform has been about the deconstruction of the administrative state and the federal government. As you continue to deconstruct the administrative state and the federal government, you will eventually and inevitably arrive at a place where the federal government and subsequently state governments and local governments won't have the funding to proliferate policing.
Do you see why I didn't say Donald Trump is cynical? Because when he's on the campaign stump talking about locking people up and giving police more and getting more jails and more handcuffs.
No. That's not what he's saying.
No.
What he's saying is that the Democrats
he's not saying what you just said. I'm saying he's not saying what you just said.
Okay, well, he doesn't say it like me. What do you want me to do? I can't speak for why he doesn't articulate things.
I don't just mean that he's not.
Do you agree with the fundamental? Is what I'm saying.
No. What I'm saying,
even if he doesn't say it that way, that is the overall trajectory of where we're headed.
What I'm saying is he doesn't express that. I'm not just saying he's not as clear.
He is saying it. What he's not going to do. What
do you think
Mark,
the average MAGA voter thinks that Donald Trump doesn't just want to lock more people up who are criminals and have bigger jails? You honestly don't think that?
You're talking to Mr. MAGA Minnesota. I know
you're
what the MAGA
average.
voters.
You're running for Senate. You're not average.
No, but what I'm telling you is I get contact with the average MAGA voter. I have a good vantage point on what the average American citizen who identifies as MAGA thinks. And when I'm out here talking, understand that the police issue, and we're going to get into this because I think I hope we got time. Hotep, just stick with me.
I don't have to. I got the role, man. I got the.
You got to. Okay. Well, here
to be fair, we have about 10 minutes left in the last round. But we might as well just keep flowing until Mark's
we can do that. We can do that. Yeah. I just meant.
Let me cap off what I was saying about Trump. What I'm saying about Trump is this: the policing issue has been weaponized against black people and white people just alike. Put black versus white, make off with the green. The cultural wedge issues and this is why I cautioned you and kind of gave some pushback. As soon as you start to go to white supremacy, I'm already skeptical that we're getting to a place where we're making it racial and the people who steal our money have cover to do so. And nobody, I don't think, can argue that racial differences in this country have provided a smokescreen for people of economic and corporate elite. Some of the same progenitors of that very narrative and cultural divide, like the mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, and even Fox News, who also hates the MAGA movement in many respects. I don't think anybody could deny that that this narrative, this racial divide, has provided cover for the government to proliferate and steal our money. I will say this: the police issue, in specifically, has been weaponized to a point where the argument is somewhat what you made is that every time a black person encounters law enforcement, it should be seen in a monolithic way. That every black person is essentially innocent because the whole system is guilty. And I just say that to transition to this, and I'll say this to end. I hope I don't know how much time we have left or whatever. The elephant in the room here.
I have one question before we get out of here too.
The question in the room here ideologically is. The elephant in the room ideologically is the presence of political theories like Marxism and how much influence they have on the left's worldview. And I bring up Marxism for a very specific reason, because the Marxist movement, the communist movement, and even subsequently the socialist movement are all part of the same sort of political, fabric, the same ideological fabric. And they all stem back to post-Enlightenment Europe, which is strange. I don't understand how the people on the left, especially black people, can talk about white supremacy and neocolonialism when an idea like Marxist came from a neocolonial empire. I don't know how that works, but we'll work on that as a culture and as a society going forward. That's why I'm here. My point is that Marxism at its root is a lie. And the left promotes it as a lie. The left talks about many of these issues along this line that Marxist, for example, is only an economic political theory. It means to deal with the unequal distribution of resources, but that is not the case whatsoever. Marxism intends to reduce the human existence down to price. When you reduce the human existence down to price, you're going to run into an issue where policing, imprisonment, and all these other things are at the behest and in the control of the elites who take over your society. And so Marxism is like, well, let's give all the power back to the people. Let's empower the people. But there's never been a Marxist or communist regime that gave broad power and control to some lumpen proletariat of poor working class. They only became the victims. And even furthermore, this secular movement on the left that wants to seem like or say that you can detach every moral and ethic from God in any form of religious history. Well, then why is it that Karl Marx in his early days when he wrote poetry was so obsessed with the story of Faust and specifically the character, the demonic character, Mephistopheles? You have this atheist and secular movement that says there's no such thing as the supernatural or metaphysical. There's no such thing as the eternal, yet your thought leaders, not you specifically, but I would argue that you probably were influenced by Karl Marx because many college professors were, that this Marx thing has nothing to do with the supernatural whatsoever, yet the thought leader, if Donald Trump had a diary a diary from his 20-year-old self where he idolized Adolf Hitler in a sort of romantic and infatuated way, where he kind of had a literary obsession with Hitler, he'd never be able to live it down. Although Marx can talk about Mephistopheles, a demonic icon in European history, a demonic character, and we're supposed to act like that doesn't have any inference on the overall impulse or desire of what the Marxist movement is trying to get at. And I say that again only to say that we are living under a neo-Marxist political hegemony on the left. And they can talk about prisons and poor and all they want to, but the corporate elites have also stratified the power. So again, I ask you, how does the Kamala Harrises of the world bring us to a change of the status quo when she's as communist and Marxist as you could possibly imagine? She's openly Marxist.
All right, let's bookmark there. I'm gonna let you respond to that, Mark. Go ahead. And then I have one question before we get out of here.
One question for each of us?
Well, it's basically one question, and you guys can sort of debate over it.
Okay, gotcha. The first thing I disagree with your assessment of Marxism and the metaphysical. I think there's far more robust and complicated space for the metaphysical and for the spiritual in the context of Marxism. Just as an intellectual point, Cornel West actually wrote his PhD dissertation on the ethical dimensions of Marx's thought. That was the book that came out of it in 1988, but he wrote a book that really gets at the question of metaphysics and spirituality in the context of Marx. And there's another way to read Marx. I would just suggest engaging that or engaging the work of Cohn or others. And if you have, other people should, because I think you get a more complicated analysis of Marxism. I disagree with the idea that Kamala Harris is a Marxist. She's deeply invested. I think that the word Marxism has become a catch-all for lots of ideologies. If we're talking about Kamala Harris believes in darn near unrestrained capitalism. Kamala Harris fundamentally believes, does not have a commitment to making sure that the proletariat has access to the means of production. I could go on and on about why I don't think she's that. But I want to answer, in the interest of time, I want to answer your fundamental question, which is why her if you're trying to change the world? Ain't nothing about her changing the world. And I think that's the right question. But remember, I would encourage you to think back to what I started with, which is I don't think she lets us change the world. I think when I was debating, or if you want to call it debating, it was more like a bullying. But when I was debating Uncle Hotep last week, and I used the example of 2 glasses of water, and I said, one is poison and one has shit in it. And I'm saying one is going to kill me. One gives me the space to fight another day. I'm not saying that the stakes are death here, but I am saying that Kamala Harris gives me space to fight another day. That is the option. And I'm not saying Kamala Harris is shit. I'm saying the Democratic Party is shit. I'm saying the American political system is shit. I'm saying that corporate politics is shit. And in this context, we're never going to get good choices who can win, at least not at the presidential level. For mayor, sure. For governor, maybe. For Senate, sometimes. But for president, it ain't going to happen. So ultimately, we're not faced with a revolutionary choice and a status quo choice. We're faced with 2 status quo choices. And the question for me is, how can and Baldwin talked about this in 1980 with the Carter-Reagan race, is, black people aren't voting for Carter because they like him or because they believe in him. It's a means of buying time. I want to buy some time. So again, I encourage you to ask all the liberals. I'm not a liberal. I encourage you to ask all the Democrats. I'm not a Democrat. Why you think Kamala's going to make your life better? Because I think they have to answer that. And I think there's not a good answer for that. But for me, that ain't the question. The question for me is, why are you choosing a lesser of two evils instead of saying I'm not choosing evil at all, which is my normal approach as a third party person. But this time I believe that we can live a little longer, thrive a little more, survive a little better if we choose this bad choice over that bad choice.
We're going to bookmark right there. We're going to go right to our final question. Shout out to Enon Hunnit for the 5 gifted subs.
This a real
Chat, thumbs up if y'all enjoying this. Chat, thumbs up if y'all enjoying this. It's on me, V with the sub. Mark Watkins with the sub. Enon Hunnit with another 5 subs.
This a real Hotep brother.
Shout out Papa Hotep with the sub. JC 80 times 5. All right, last question, and then we're going to let y'all go here. I really wanted to hammer on this point. I just want to understand. Mark, you said Trump is taking Black history out of schools. Did I hear that correctly?
No, you didn't hear that correctly.
Okay.
I said that he's been used as the figurehead. I said the people who've been leading that movement are people like Moms for Liberty and Christopher Rufo and others. What I said was that he's often been used as a figurehead. They put his face on that movement, whether it's mainstream media, whether it's, again, I don't think Trump cares about that one way or the other.
You want me to respond, or go ahead?
Yeah, Royce, what do you feel about that notion that Moms of Liberty is removing Black history and all of that stuff from curriculum? How do you see it?
And we didn't really talk about the culture wedge issues, and I appreciate that. I think we should probably do this again if Mark would be up to it, because I think we should get
I'd love that. Let's do it.
I think we should spend some more time on the cultural wedge issues. Now that we've gotten down to ideology, we've broken into Marxism and kind of this ideological split of the country. We talked about political framework, and many of us out there in the country, I know us in the MAGA movement, we agree on a lot of the criticisms of government, which is why we want to shrink it, almost an unconstrained shrinkage of federal government. But this is intellectually dishonest. I don't appreciate this part of it, and I think this is where much of the referendum in the 2024 cycle is. And, to say that Black history has to include the LGBTQ agenda or movement because there are Black people who are LGBTQ is completely and utterly dishonest. And from being on the Republican side, I can tell you firsthand, regardless of how it manifests itself in the public square, and I'm not saying that doesn't account for anything, because it does. But what I'm saying is that the impulse, the spirit to reject a thing like CRT has nothing to do with erasing the history of Black people. We want to talk about Frederick Douglass. We want to talk about Lincoln abolishing slavery. We want to talk about where this country came from a racial standpoint. The fabric of this country is Blacks and whites. The problem with it is that, and this is a problem about politics in general that I know you would probably agree with, it's become a common political culture that both sides of the aisle play this game where we try and smuggle everything else into a sort of figurehead issue, a sort of headline topic. You always have a bill that has a headline. This is a such and such bill, and then you have a 2,000-page omnibus with a bunch of other stuff that gets through, some of it often military spending. And it wouldn't be lost on me to find out that in many instances, the Democrat liberal order has tried to smuggle CRT or other LGBTQ legislation along with military industrial complex funding for wars. In fact, they've certainly done that when it comes to the Ukraine war. And we could probably go back and look at the bill for the aid that they, again, clubbed together Taiwan and Israel. I mean, that's the scam, right? So omnibus bills are kind of a scam that need to be addressed in and of itself. I know from being around the Republicans, nobody wants to stop Americans from talking about Abraham Lincoln, slavery, Frederick Douglass, and where we came from in this country. What we don't want to allow or concede to is that in order to talk about Black history, you also have to talk about LGBTQ history. That is completely and utterly intellectually dishonest. I reject it, and even furthermore, I resent it. The whole,
Finish. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
The whole, and this again, one way or another. Look, it's not me saying it. It's 51% of Black men who now poll for Donald Trump in this presidential race, and you can't look at that and not go back and identify where Black men are popping up all across the country at school board meetings saying, "Why is there a book here that has explicit sexual content in it that's so explicit, in fact, that I can't even mention it in this school board meeting, yet you have it in our kids' school library. You have given them access to this content in the name of progressing equality for the LGBTQ." So that is a referendum issue. And if anything, is clear to me. It's that the LGBTQ movement, if anything has been hijacked, if anything has been infiltrated, the pro-Black movement in this country has been infiltrated by LGBTQ activists. And I don't even think that can be denied. I don't even think there's a sensible debate. I know some people would say that a man can wake up the next day and be a woman if he chooses to, but then we're not sort of dealing with the radical complexity of nuance that we were when we were talking about geopolitics, where you have to get very specific about the details and agree on a base reality. If we can't agree on a base reality, that's part of the reason we can't have these conversations. And to go back to Marx to end, I don't want to take up too much time. To go back to Marx, Marx explicitly laid out in his political theory, in so many words, how Marxists and communists and subsequently socialists would use any revolutionary movement in order to forward their own political agenda. And we, as a Black community, have been co-opted and infiltrated by Marxism, which is why they so openly spit in our face and try and tell us that the LGBTQ movement and the pro-Black movement in our interest are inextricably linked. There's nothing remotely appropriate about that historical assessment or analysis.
Yeah, you suggested I was being intellectually dishonest by saying that people want to get.
No, I mean the people who say that not you, but I'm just saying in general that.
Got you. I would push back and say I think there are multiple things happening, but the removal of history and race conversation and such has absolutely nothing to do with LGBTQ stuff. I'm talking about bills that don't even raise the question of LGBTQ stuff. There are bills that do raise the question of LGBTQ stuff. I don't deny that, right? If we look in Florida, for example, I want to call it, I don't remember the exact name of the bill, but we called it the Don't Say Gay.
Don't Say Gay, right?
Yeah, but I don't like to do that because it kind of sensationalizes the
right.
bill, but it was HB 1550. It's the Parents' Rights in Education Act is what it's called.
Right.
Rights in Education Act. And they basically said it's unlawful to talk about, engage, mention sexual identity or orientation from preschool to third grade. And then after that, it has to go with state standards, which is very vague and obviously not clear. But I wasn't talking about that. I'm thinking about something like the Stop Wrongs to Our Kids and Employees Act in Florida, the Stop Woke Act, HB 7, not HB 1577. Doesn't mention homosexuality, doesn't mention trans, doesn't mention queer. And I feel like the trans issue and the queer issue can get thrown in there as a distraction for people who, as a wedge issue for people who might actually want Black history, but might not want to deal with trans issues.
No, it's not, Mark.
This is my It may or may not.
It's when you say, I'm telling you from the Republican standpoint.
No. I listen.
When you say that all things stem from white supremacy, that's also intellectually dishonest.
That's not.
When you say that the existence and the history of Black people in this country all stems from.
I didn't say that.
No, the bills, not you, but a lot of these bills that talk about Black history also make the Marxist cultural critique that whiteness itself is inherently evil, and I've seen it done a number of times. It's disgusting.
Let me finish talking about the bill.
It's dishonest.
But let me finish talking about the bill that I was talking about, and then that way, if we may disagree on it, but I at least want to disagree on anything I'm talking about. So the Stop Woke Act it absolutely shapes how you can talk about history. It says that you can't. It says that it prohibits any teaching practices that promote guilt, anguish, and other forms of psychological distress against any student. It also prevents anything that indoctrinates or persuades students to a particular point of view inconsistent with state academic standards. So for example, if I were to convince someone by law, I'm not saying everybody feels this way, but if by law, I couldn't, if talking about the fact that America was a slaveholding nation made a white person feel guilty or uncomfortable, I couldn't teach it by law, right? I'm saying
that's dumb. That's a dumb interpretation of the law.
But this is exactly how it's been weaponized. And this is why
now you got to talk about who brought the bill and if they were trying to do that. But what I'm saying is let me
finish what I'm saying, because this is my closing statement.
Go ahead.
I'll be able to make it.
I'm the new MAGA movement, but go ahead.
That's fine. What I'm saying, I was speaking about the bills. There seemed to be some question about whether there were legitimately bills that were trying to stop the thing that I'm talking about, and then it was offered that it actually wasn't about race, but it was actually just trying to stop this LGBTQ stuff. And what I'm saying is that's not what it's about. These were people. I've been to the school board meetings. I've been to the Moms for Liberty rallies. I've interviewed these people myself. They are very clear in saying there's certain kinds of race talk we don't want in school. There's certain parts of history we don't want to deal with in our history books.
Right.
And I'm saying, if we believe in liberty, if we believe in free speech, if we believe in the right to disagree, if we reject cancel culture, then we can't on the one hand say, and I'm not talking about your MAGA movement or anybody else, I'm speaking it right now about the movement that's in America that is affecting
Cancel culture, like Dave Chappelle, you mean?
Absolutely. That's
we
exactly
should cancel that. We should cancel Dave Chappelle.
No, I'm agreeing with you. You're just looking for a debate. I'm saying
no,
you're
I'm
right.
not. I'm clarifying. I'm really.
Yeah, I'm saying yes. You said cancel culture like Dave Chappelle. I'm saying yes. That would be an example of cancel culture.
So we should be able to cancel him, or we shouldn't be able to cancel him.
You and I are saying the same thing. He has been canceled, or they tried to cancel him. I'm saying that what was attempted to be done to him was an example of cancel culture.
Right, but you're saying the Republicans with these bills are trying to make sure that people can't do cancel culture. I thought you said if you.
No, I'm not saying that.
Okay. That's why I was trying to clarify.
When I get cut mid-sentence, that's how it happens. What I'm saying is that I'm pointing out the contradiction between saying that you don't, not you, but that people don't like cancel culture, and they want free speech and they want robust ideas, but certain ideas are out of bounds. Whether it's criticizing Israel, whether it's talking about slavery, I'm saying if we're going to be honest about this, on whatever side of the aisle you're on, let's have the conversation, let's have the debate, and let's not be selective when we want a full conversation and when we don't. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think you're going to agree with me.
No, let's have full and total free speech, and let's have all the ideas be out on the table. What I think many Republicans are rightfully challenging is that the universities, the academic institutions in this country have for a long time, seen a certain political tilt, and that because of that political tilt, the byproducts, the teachers that come out of the universities that now teach in the schools have the opportunity to predate on young people's minds with their political ideology, going back to ideas like Marxism and communism and socialism and identity politics and even the LGBTQ or other race-based.
We got to debate that. That's another debate for another time. I got to go.
Yes.
For time's sake, but got some family stuff to do. But
what I was saying is that what I'm saying is that what a lot of Republicans and white people in this country are rejecting, and I think they're right to do it, is that the Democrat Party and the liberal movement has used the schools to tell young white students that they should vote Democrat or be in lockstep with the liberal agenda because they are white and should feel guilty, and only the Democrat and liberal platform address black issues. That's what you're seeing in the rejection of how.
Uncle Hotep, let's at your discretion, let's come back and debate the culture issue. Let's talk about trans. Let's talk about LGBTQ. Let's talk about history. Let's have a focused conversation with three questions. We were kind of all over the place, not in a bad way. We had to figure out. It's like a fight. You got to figure out, But now we're in the third, fourth round. So let's do that next time. I'd love to have that conversation. I'm down.
Super dope. Great conversation. I'm sure the chat would agree. I'm sure all of our viewers would agree. Thank you to the two gentlemen. Royce, thank you very much. Exhilarating information. Mark, thank you very much for coming back on the platform once again. I'm going to close out here. You gentlemen can go ahead and just leave the lobby. I'm going to take over and take some phone calls and serve the people. So I appreciate y'all. Whoo. E900. Thank you for the gifted sub.
This a real Hotep brother.
Thank you so much for the gifted sub. Hold on a second. All right. What y'all think, man? Let's open up the phone lines. Text 202-596-5631. 202-596-5631. Let's hear what the people say. I'm going to start reading the chat. Catch up. Y'all some demons in the chat. Fire? Yeah. Great conversation. Lauren said, what you mean, HJ? Text 202-596-5631. Straight demons. Yeah, I'm trying to keep a straight face. Y'all in the chat telling jokes and shit. Hotep Debate League is where it's at. They went kind of long on the Israel thing, but I kind of had to let them sort that out. I kind of had to let them sort that out because they was going bar for bar with that. 586, what's happening, man?
Peace to the legend. Listen, man, this Dr. Inky on the call-in. Man, this was a completely different. This was very, very, very different than the last conversation. This was. This was very different. I don't have any. I just wanted to call in and just, this was different. This
What
was
do you
a much
mean?
more. This was much more fast paced.
Okay.
Much more information.
Mm-hmm.
Marc Lamont was getting like he was getting beat up the whole like this. He didn't get an inch. Like he didn't get any room to play. He didn't there was no. Yeah, he didn't get any room to play tonight. Like he couldn't dominate. He couldn't dominate the conversation. Like this was a totally different. Yeah, even your facial expressions. You were funny. Like you. Yeah, people in the chat be like. Even your facial expressions was different. Like you ad lib just with your facial expressions alone, like that. But yeah, it was definitely different. You know what I'm saying? I say this: Marc Lamont is a champion for coming back and showing the love to Hotepistan.
Absolutely.
Because the conversations now, especially with this. The conversations are now growing into another space where it's kind of like beyond the debate. This was more like I know as folks that was watching, I was taking notes, you know what I'm saying, regardless to whether people were on the left or the right or somewhere in between, they were learning things about their own party. They were learning things about their own party, learning things about the other party. I know they learned a lot about. And I don't know how this kind of, because even when I have discussions, I don't think we've really nailed that down. So I think like the difference between the Republican Party and the MAGA Party, I think that was really important to get into.
That was a powerful segment.
Yeah, that was crazy. I was like, oh shit, I even got lost because I had to rewind back. I was like, yo, this is kind of crazy right here. And then the Marxist conversation, Marc was trying to dodge, like, yeah. Royce was holding his feet to the fire, like, she's definitely a Marxist. Like, we're not getting ready to dance. But I ain't gonna lie, Marc Lamont Hill, he's like, his dancing is he's a dancer, but he wasn't able to move around the ring too much.
You think he
Kamala's
was dancing?
An open market. Oh my goodness. The campaign he's running for Kamala right now is, I'm really not a Kamala fan, but every flaw that she has, he's on a platform to kind of like makeup, you know what I'm saying? Like to rub out that blemish. Even though I don't really like Kamala, but I'm just saying, she's not really a Marxist, you know. Even though I don't really like Kamala, she really is like every blemish, everything that would make you not vote for Kamala, he just wants to subtly provide opposition to that blemish to create the, because it's still early. We still got another 4 months, 3 months, 3.5 months. So just planting, people don't realize that much more than the bacterial infection or viral infection, thoughts are the hardest thing to get rid of. You know what I'm saying? Like once you're infected with a thought, like that thing can grow. So people that know, like he's a spin doctor. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I just, he's one of those guys though that you'd rather have him on your side than not on your side. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Now he's over there with Kamala. It's like, come on, bro. What are you doing over there? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing over there? So yeah, it was good to see him, like cornered and on the defense. He was cornered and on the defense tonight. The whole night. Like he was just cornered and he was on the back foot like the whole time. Like yeah, I gotta get out of here and do some family stuff. He couldn't even think of what he had to get out of here and do. Like, do some family stuff. I bet you do. You gotta get him out of that ring. Yeah, you need a little, when they put the cold thing on your face, like, you know what I'm saying? You need some Vaseline, a water break. You need to get up out of here for a minute. This one didn't go that well. Last one didn't go that well, but at least you had the illusion that, you know what I'm saying, when you danced on out of here, they were still playing your music and you had your belts with you and everything. This time here, this was brutal. Busted lip, swollen eye, like this. Yeah, this was rough. But it was definitely a good. So let me ask you: are you gonna upload this to YouTube?
No.
Ooh, damn! Are you at least gonna go tease the YouTube people with a trailer or something and tell them they played themselves if they didn't come over? Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, because they need to. Like, this is crazy right here, bro. This was a hell of a. This was a hell of a debate. This was a show right here. This was a good one right here. Good for the platform too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It was.
We building the Griff Report over here right now, so.
I was lost. I was lost for about 5 or 10 minutes because I'm over there and I'm like, why the hell don't I see anybody? Where the hell is everybody? I'm on Hotep Jesus page.
Oh yeah.
Like, this don't say nothing but chess. Where the hell is Hotep?
Oh, that's my chess page.
I go back and say the Griff Report. I'm like, oh, okay, let me get this.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a little late because I was in the wrong place. But this was crazy right here. This was a really good build in terms of cats digging into you know what I'm saying? Like, I know for a fact, even your regulars, everybody, no matter where your vocabulary is, what your acumen is in terms of, history and politics, and like, I know everybody learned something tonight.
They went in the weeds.
Man, I was taking down notes. Like, he said, the neo. Wait, what? How did that relate to the? What the hell is going on? I was like, oh shit! And then I'm looking at Marc Lamont. He looked like he damn near over there Googling. I was like, ooh, he in trouble over. Yeah, he wasn't.
He went to the Googles.
Yeah, he might have. Yeah, he didn't look good. I knew he didn't look good over there.
Damn.
No. Yeah, so after the first debate, he probably came back for this one thinking it would be another easy dub. But after this one, he might want to come back to, like, reestablish himself. Like, Marc, you got beat up pretty good there, sir. You might want
to. So he got to come back just to reestablish?
He got to come back after this. Like, shit, he from Philly.
I felt teased, pause. I felt like, we spent so much time on the Israel situation, but the Israel information was so good. I was like, I kind of got to let this shit go. And then we segued into some other shit.
Yeah, but it's needed, though. So it's needed.
Yeah.
Because we're not going to get that on the news.
No.
We're not going to get that on the news. And if we were to get it on the news, it wouldn't be as palatable. Like that not only was that like shit that we not gonna get, it was hyper palatable.
Right.
Yeah, which makes it different, because that's the hard thing with knowledge, with information, is like, can you make this palatable, or is it gonna sound like a PBS special? You know what I'm saying? Like, so that was because that is still, it's old news to some of us, especially in the YouTube space. We be so fast on the YouTube space that even current events is still like last month to us. You know what I'm saying? But
they're giving you the cut. They giving you the cut. They sending the cut in. They said your time's up in the chat.
Hey, all good. I know other people trying to call in, but no, that was hyper palatable, man. It was a good convo. Peace to the chat, everybody except for the people who sent me the Sandman to dance me off the stage.
Yeah, I appreciate you on the call, bro. Let me finish these calls, bro.
Yes, sir.
Hotep and Bill. Hold on, let's get to the callers, man. You know, that's how we got a rule on the calls. If you get the cut, it's time to cut. You know what I'm saying?
Being forwarded to voicemail. The person you're trying to reach.
This nigga sent me the voicemail. Who was that? All right, let's call this person back. I don't know who this is. Yo.
Hello.
Yo.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show. Hello?
Hello.
Yeah, welcome to the show. How you doing, man? You got something to say to the people?
Yeah.
Go ahead and say it.
Yo, man, I really appreciate this conversation, man. It's been a long time. Like I said before, this is like a conversation for brothers that grew up in the 80s and 90s. I mean, I grew up in the whitest town you can fucking believe. And to be able to be have these conversations and to have these details, intricate things that we go through. 'Cause we know we ain't fucking around with all this other bullshit. So I love the conversation, especially near the end of it. You know, when they were talking about race and talking about the schools and all this stuff that they're doing.
Nah, that's what's up. That's what's up, man. Yeah. So you took some information away from this debate tonight?
Yeah, we ended up, we have these conversations about black and white and all this other stuff that we've gone through. And hello, I'm breaking up.
Are you drunk?
A little bit. But what I'm trying to get at is that you always have the best content, intellectual contact. You're always giving out information. I mean, I grew up and I didn't know half this shit that, the Fed, the fucking schools, the fucking, all this shit. I never knew all this shit. I mean, I'm fucking 48 years old. I didn't know all this fucking shit. They teach you all this other bullshit. So I like the fact that, the one thing with Trump is get it back to the states. Let every district, I live in Texas, so like Houston and Dallas, where they're predominantly blacks, or districts, teach them. I think everybody knows that the white people fucking beat the shit out of, their slaves and Hispanics, and they did all this shit to everybody. But in these districts and these areas where there's predominantly black or predominantly brown, let's not just talk about all the fucking ass kicking that everybody took. Talk about the individuals and the peoples in these areas that lifted up and did things. Black Wall Street. I never knew about shit like that. So keep it up.
All right, no doubt.
Hotep. Let's do.
Hotep a bill. Yo, the chat is brutal. Shout out to Inky on the call-in. Shout out to Inky on the call-in. The chat is brutal. The chat is brutal. As soon as he got on the phone, y'all was sending the cut emoji in the chat. Oh my God. IBEW Bonds, thank you for the 5 gifted subs.
This a real Hotep brother.
He needs some Apex. Hey, whoever that was trying to call in. We're gonna go to that caller next. Descending to Loki with the 10 gifted subs.
This a real Hotep brother.
Descending to Loki on the takeover. He's still number one. He's still number one. Number one grift on this channel, Descending to Loki. You see it right there. E900 with the 5 subs.
This a real Hotep brother.
And Natty Smurf. Natty Smurf is the second biggest grifter on this platform. Them brothers is holding it down. Who is this?
Call from.
Yo.
Yo, this Knuckle Brew, man.
Huh?
This Knuckle Brew, man.
Oh, Knuckle Brew. What up, bro?
Man, I just had to tell you, I'm on sauce right now before we go on this call talking with the chat. Man, that was a crazy debate, man. It's just...
You enjoyed that?
Hell yeah, I enjoyed that shit, man. I was already prepared for it. Got to listen to Royce podcast all the damn time, and I saw when Mark was dancing, and I say, man, he better get away from Palestine because he ain't got the depth to go with Royce right now. Yeah,
Royce goes in on that one. He goes in when we get in that bag.
I kept saying, man, Mark ain't do his damn homework. He was not prepared for this. He thought it was another Uncle Hotep thing. He was not ready for
it. Royce could go. Royce is a monster, yo.
Oh, he just, and I don't want to sound like I'm glazing this motherfucker right now, but it's just the fucking truth. He was not ready for that shit.
What was you sipping on tonight?
Man, I'm drinking Corona Premier right now. I'm about 8 bottles in.
Damn. Shout out to all the people getting slizzy tonight watching the debate. I see y'all.
Man, damn right, man. It had to get right, man. Griff Report, best thing on the internet, best thing in the fucking world right now. Shout out to Hotep Jesus.
Appreciate you, man. Much love, yo. Shout out to my Griff Report squad.
Already, man. Hotep and Bill, my guy.
Hotep. Knuckle Brew on the call-in. Clip that. Who was this? That was Knuckle Brew right there that just called in. Who was that was trying to call in? Look, here go Tari. Tari want to call in. Y'all know as soon as I text Tari, it's going to take this nigga 30 minutes to call in. Watch this. I bet you the other caller beats him. This shit got to go through his universal basic internet. That's what Lauren called it. Glam said that nigga was drunk. You was right. You did call that shit. Candace said I was drinking on that hegemony. Yeah, was I talking about that word hegemony on the stream today? You knew that word gonna get thrown around a lot, yo. I'm already sick of that word. Roscoe, shout out to Roscoe with the 10 gifted subs.
This a real Hotep brother.
Roscoe on the hold down, top grifter, making his way. Kelson, call in. Yeah, call in, says Kelson. Call in. Who is this? Oh shit, Tari called in on time.
Sorry.
Tari, you made it. You internet work. Oh shit, now I can't hear this nigga. Tari. You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying? Now this nigga phone don't work. Shout out to Knuckle Brew with the 5 gifted subs.
This a real Hotep brother.
Text the number. Who wanted to call in? Who was it that wanted to call in? We finally got Tari to call in on time. His internet gives out. Here you go again. Let's see. Try again. Try number 2.
Sorry.
Tari, what's up, man?
What's up?
What's good with you?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
You hear me? All right.
They said you want a jail phone.
Look, man, I'll be trying to make sure it ain't a bunch of background noise. All right.
All right.
Trying to make sure this stream is clean. All right.
All right.
But
So what you think of tonight's debate?
This got me kind of rethinking the results of Unk's debate a little bit.
Interesting. Okay.
To be honest, the way that Royce came was very composed. Definitely a big difference between the way that the Unk came, but not too much of a difference. And I think that similar things happened, right? Mark kind of shot himself in the foot. Like, the more that he was allowed to talk on his own and make his points, the more, he kind of essentially argued against himself, you know what I mean? And what Royce was doing was essentially, he was educating all of us, I think.
Absolutely. Right? I agree with that.
I know.
I was like, damn, this nigga's going in. He talking about shit I never heard of and whatnot. Yeah.
And that's what I like to see in a debate. Like, I'm going to go rewatch this and maybe even take some notes to go research some of the things that he was talking about. And that's pretty much why I'm going to give it to him. Like, when you come to a debate like that, prepared like that, with that kind of information to where you got everybody thinking, and even the person that you're debating is learning from you so much that they're actually kind of shining.
Elon, to clip that nigga internet. This nigga got a Starlink phone. This nigga phone connects to Twitter. He got to log in Twitter to make a phone call. This nigga got a a Tesla beeper. Yo, Lauren calling. We got Lauren calling in. Lauren calling, man. He got a DDoS attack and shit. He said nigga 10,000 times. He did say nigga 10,000 times. He got a DDoS phone. 202-596-5631. 202-596-5631. Text that number before you call.
Call from
Lauren, welcome to the show.
Yo. Oh my God.
What happened? What happened?
First off, I'm gonna keep it quick because I got to get back to the chat. There's some funny motherfuckers in this chat. Okay, I don't know if anybody else is reading or paying attention, but we some funny motherfuckers up in here. Okay, I'm just gonna put it out there.
Listen, I looked at the chat and I said, nope, I'm not looking at the chat because y'all gonna have me break character up here. I ain't fucking with y'all.
You almost slipped up a couple times. I was
Listen, niggas got me taking posing for screenshots and shit. I'm like, yo, what's going on?
Oh my God! But it's like to the point where I could hardly at point pay attention to what they were even saying because it was just so funny. You know what I mean? So I definitely got to go back and listen to it because I really wanted to listen to Royce. I really respect that man. I'm so proud of him, and I want to see him win. I want to see him do bigger and better things.
We need him. We need him in there.
We absolutely do. We absolutely do. Yeah, Mark was just.
Was he dancing?
Oh my! He was just so disingenuous. The man can't stick to a point. And just nail it down. You know what I mean? And every other thing is out of his mouth is, oh, I think or I believe. Well, no, tell me what you know, Mark. What do you know for a fact? What can you put your finger on? You know what I'm saying? He's just, I can't with him. I'm not focused on him. I'm thinking about next week, Goldstein and Bryson. That's going to be insane. Insane.
I just got chills up my spine when you reminded me about that.
Ooh, man, but let me tell you, let me find out Hotep debates is the new wave.
It's the wave.
Let me find out.
Step right up. If y'all think y'all got what it takes and you want to call somebody out, I'm right here. Let's get it.
Man, this is way better than that stupid pop the fucking balloon bullshit. Come on. What are you doing?
Hotep debates Friday night.
Oh man, it's lit. I'll be there every week.
I'm gonna have to keep it going.
You might even catch me on stage. You might even catch me.
Who trying to catch some smoke? Lauren said, "Who wants to smoke?" She's stepping in the ring. Oh man. Hi. Well, I appreciate
another
you.
Another brilliant one. We just gonna keep doing this. I can't wait for next week. Hotep and Bill.
Thank you very much.
Love y'all.
Love y'all. Oh man, love you, Lauren. Love you, Lauren. Love you, Lauren. Thank you. Shout out to the community for making this happen. Shout out to Nerd Nash, because without him, none of this would be even happening. Natty Smurf with the 10 gifted subs. Did I say that already? Roscoe with the 10 gifted subs. And Knuckle Brew with the 5 gifted subs.
Oh, this a real Hotep.
Appreciate y'all. If I say y'all name more than once, it's just because, hey, fuck it. I got to show y'all love anyway, right? All right, who is over here? We got white women calling in. Oh, shit. We got white women calling into the show. Let's see what she got to say. Any guesses in the chat on what this white woman's about to say? We got one of our crowd favorites, I would say. Laura's part of the Hotep fam. She's appreciating what she's been seeing online. So we're gonna go to Laura Ann. We waiting for Laura Ann to call it. Oh my God. Kelson with the 10 gifted subs.
Oh, this a real Hotep.
We just trying to break the internet. One good conversation at a time. I want to make sure we get y'all that educational information. Make sure you learn something. I want to bring people on a platform that's smarter than me.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Laura Ann, welcome to the platform. What's up, sister?
Dude, okay, first of all, I'm drunk, so let me just take that car. Okay. All right.
Everybody
Okay, I
drunk.
was a different person like 2 hours ago. All right. Well, let me just say that Mark's face, oh shit, Mark's face,
Uh-huh.
the entire debate, did anyone notice that he was just trying to lift that, like, left eye up, or, oh my God.
His eyes was closed?
He had his eyes closed. He was half in the bag. I don't know what was going on with him, but, like, already Royce won. Royce won with that, like, off the bat.
Damn.
And then, of course, like I told you, Royce had to keep it on point. He did.
Yeah, he definitely did.
He just kept it on point. And then this fool, like, during Royce, like, just talking, he was falling asleep. I saw your face in all of this was just the best thing that I've ever seen in my entire life. Your reaction to everything that Mark did or what Royce did was hysterical. You were just like trying to keep it together and not react. Impeccable.
I was trying my best.
It was you. You knew you wanted to say something though, right? Like I was like, oh, like Mark was falling asleep at some point. I was like, you knew it. You knew it. You were like, this dude's falling asleep. Anyway, so like they went on and on, right? Like all I saw was your expressions. I saw Mark's expressions because he was just dumbfounded. He was already lit up before he even got on stage. And then Royce didn't even have to do anything. Mark just did everything for himself. I told you they don't have an argument. They just don't. So they sit there, and Royce just, did you see him, like, laid back? He was all laid back. He should have been smoking a cigar. Like, he just, I don't know. I can't wait until Goldstein is up because this is going to happen. I can't wait.
It's gonna be epic. Can't wait to see you next week for the next debate.
Thank you so much.
What was you sipping on?
Do it a rosé, a good rosé wine.
Oh, she got her rosé. Okay, we got the white girl wine Friday night. Let's go. There you go. Appreciate the call in, Laura Ann.
Thank you.
Shout out to Laura Ann. Only on the Griff Report, damn it. Only on the fucking Griff Report where you get drunk, middle-aged white women call into the show on a debate with niggas. Only place. She did sound like, the typical drunk white woman, like the quintessential cliche drunk white woman. She nailed. That shit was perfect. That was perfect. Somebody clip it. Oh my God. I love y'all. I swear to God, I love y'all forever. This was amazing. Shout out to Kelson with the 10 gifted subs.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
Somebody said she sounded like Kamala. Kamala sound like a drunk white woman? We might be onto something with that. AJ changed the name to Alcoholistan. Yo, all my callers is drunk. HotepCon tickets on sale, by the way. Niggas be getting fucked up at HotepCon. Kev's mom just subscribed to the channel. Shout out to Kev's mom. Yo, who's that on the call in?
Yo, Hotep Zanthoven. Also a little bit sauce.
Uh-oh, here we go. What you sipping on?
Oh, number 7 Tennessee whiskey, Jack Daniels,
Okay, shout out to the JD.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Tapping in from Atlanta, Georgia. I'm going to be real quick. This was a very, very great debate. And I'll say that because I was expecting drama at first. I wanted Royce to really, get in his bag and start motherfuckering and chopping heads off. But this was a true intellectual battle, a battle of wits, if you will. This was very great for not only Hotep Nation, but just the black community in general, because you see how or at least I saw how we had a lot more in common than we had not in common.
So true. So true.
So shit, with that being said, this was a great episode. You've been killing it the past maybe month. Keep it up. You got my love. You got my support. Shout out to Hoteps in the chat. Much love. Hotep Zanthoven out of here.
Appreciate you. Zanthoven on the check-in. Axel Foley. Let's get Axel Foley in here. Axel Foley. Let's get Axel Foley in here. We've been on fire. We've been on fire, just trying to stay consistent, serve the community. I think that's the main key here. Serve the community, remain consistent, always show up. We waiting on Axel Foley to call in. HJ, Royce, and Goldstein could be a TV show. Yo, listen, that would be insane. Goldstein's like evil Royce.
Call from
Axel Foley.
Axel, what's up, bro?
Hey, what's cracking, man?
Real quick, before we get into, what's going on tonight, did you watch the new Beverly Hills Cop?
Yeah, I did. It was fire. It was fire.
I liked it too.
Yeah, like they hit the mark to me. They had everybody in there from the last ones, and it flowed right. It felt like I was watching one of the old ones. I ain't gonna lie.
It really did. It really brought it home. It absolutely did. Okay, I'm sorry. What you sipping on tonight?
Hey, I ain't sipping on nothing. I got this lemon tree gelato sitting right here, though. But I'm
this a real.
You hear that?
Hotep,
you hear the Hotep? He said, I got some all natural shit I'm sipping on. I ain't like the rest of these drunk callers.
Yeah, I was supposed to be doing a little reading, but then I got to look. I forgot this coming on. Then the boys start clowning. I was like, I got to tap in. That was crazy.
What you think of the debate, man?
So really, the funny thing, right? Just with somebody else, part two is really gonna be where it's disrespectful. What I want, people copping please in the chat. We ain't even got to. I'm telling y'all, watch. Mark set himself up, because what's gonna happen is they get into the cultural stuff and what nobody want to admit on either side. Oh, this is some cultural bullshit. They keep saying, "Oh no, this person and this party, this." No, what y'all beating around the bush in? Because you saw that tension at the end. They woke up a little bit. Nah, it's the cultural stuff, and that's where Mark gets compromised at. He, for some reason, he got that 10% he can't let go of, like when it comes to the LGBTQ stuff and all this other stuff, and that's when he gonna trip himself up. And at the end of the day, it's like I think the only part where Royce slipped up at is he was kind of copping pleased with Trump, like, oh no, this is what he really meant. We ain't got to do that for nobody. I mean, Trump say what he say, like it is what it is. But Mark is like, he is straddling the fence some, but I think this topic was better. Part two gonna be more dope. Just like last week, I think set itself up because the topic was fucked up, but it is, but it is what it is. You got to have that part two though, and that's it.
All right, appreciate you, man. Part two coming soon.
Yes, sir.
What type of bill? Let's get Sage in here. Sage wants to call in. Shout out to all my people get lit tonight. All my people on that bottle. Drinking the white man's liquor. Yo, I thought I was going to have a hard time judging the debate tonight, moderating the debate. It was harder just to keep a straight face. That was the hardest thing for me to do. I was just like, please don't be biased. Please don't be biased.
Call from
Hotep Sage.
Sage, what's happening?
Damn, bro, we just don't run fair ones in Hotepistan, apparently.
What happened?
we got Unc getting massacred the night before, a couple nights back, and then we got this. Like, jeez, man. It was good. It was very entertaining. We got a completely different showing than the last one. I honestly had never heard of the other guy before. I fuck with a lot of the shit he was saying. I'm not sipping on anything, but I am smoking a little something. But yeah, Royce. No, I ain't never heard of him. I kind of fell out with a lot of the right wing stuff, so I'm not as tapped in with that as I used to be.
Tap in with Royce. He the truth. We need him in Senate. He's the only politician
yeah,
I'm behind for Senate.
Yeah, no, I need to. If I voted, I would vote for him if I was in that. If I was in his jurisdiction, everything like that. But yeah, very enlightening conversation. Even though Mark was getting pieced up, I didn't know a lot about him either. He kind of, no disrespect. I hope he comes back. I mad props and mad respect for him even coming and fucking with us to begin with. But coming back again, that was really cool of him. But he always, like, everything I follow him kind of comes off as a bitch to me, but that's just me. I'm sorry. That's just very catty, very sassy, and his argumentation style, and I don't really like that, especially if it's coming from a dude. But hey, it is what it is. Everybody's got their own thing. But yeah, that was and then Goldstein's about to. I feel like intellectually speaking, Bryson's going to be on the same level as Goldstein. But Goldstein's just a heavy hitter. I think he's just going to keep hitting him too hard. Like, I think that's ultimately where it's gonna fall out. Because intellectually speaking, I think Bryson's on it. I think he stands 10 toes down in what he believes in. And even though I don't agree with him, I can't say that he's bullshitting. He may be wrong in how he's gotten to some of his thinking, but I don't think he's lying to you when he says what he says. You know what I mean?
Yeah. He believes that shit.
100%, and I can respect that. Like,
he absolutely believes that. I can co-sign it. He believes the shit he says. That's his. That's his one advantage going into the. If I had to say there's one advantage is he actually believes the shit he's saying.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's a dyed-in-the-wool true believer. And I will say, I came up in the church and everything back in the Gap and grew up on all the Christian stuff. Like, he's bringing that shit back. He's bringing that shit back. Like, I'll be listening to some of his shit every once in a while. I'll come across my playlist. I'm like, it's just fire. It reminds me of like some old shit like Grits back in the day, and old Lecrae when he was doing his thing and stuff like that. But it's cool stuff. But I'm gonna get up out of here. Great show as always.
Thank you.
Hotep and Build.
Hotep and Build. Shout out to Sage. Coming to the stage. Chat, who do you think the next caller is? Who do you think the next caller is? Can you take a guess? The man of the hour. The one you've all been waiting for. Y'all know what time it is. Say his name. This name will be heralded throughout the streets of Hotepistan.
Call from
Goldstein, welcome to the show, brother.
What's happening?
What's happening? You're a crowd favorite. Chat is showing you a lot of love. You got a debate coming up next week versus Bryson Gray. What do you think of the debate tonight? And then let's talk about your debate next week.
First, I want to say shout out to Royce. Great debate. Shout out to Marc Lamont Hill. Psych. He gets no shout out from me, motherfucker. Shout out to Royce for whooping that motherfucker. All right. This was a great show. I gotta give it to you, man. This was a great show. You hosted a great debate. You know what I mean? I wouldn't want any other moderator, that's for sure.
Thank you. I appreciate that. That's what's up.
I also gotta say, chat, y'all a bunch of motherfucking degenerates. Y'all is a bunch of degenerates, man.
Why you say they degenerates?
They drinking in the library. They're drinking in the library, drinking in the drinking in the
debate halls of Hotepistan, all in the Senate congressional halls. Just a bunch of drunk senators in the halls.
Yeah, Jack Daniels, Rose,
Corona.
Man, I remember those days. Those were awesome days.
Man.
But yeah, this was live. So what are we doing? We doing this next week, same time?
That's how I'm going to set it up. I'm going to hit Bryson up and let her know, like, yo, 9 p.m. this Friday coming up. It is what it is, and we get confirmation from Bryson. It should be green light.
My wife doesn't think he's gonna show.
Wait. Time out. Your wife does not think he'll show?
Yeah.
Wow.
My wife is saying he ain't finna do it. He's finna find something all of a sudden to do. He ain't finna do it. I mean, listen, he's batting 1,000 in that. Because you know what I mean? So I can't deny what she's saying could possibly be the case.
Mm-hmm.
But my wife was like, nah, he's not gonna do it.
We're gonna see. We're gonna confirm. He said it. We got him on record that he said he'd do it. We got him on record that he said he'd do it, so he can't back out now.
Man, Bryson, if you're listening, don't do this twice. That would be the worst possible thing you could do is I'll do it right now, looking ass, and then not show up either time. All of a sudden get busy. What are you going to do next? You're going to start making the opera? You're going to make an opera track? You know what I mean? I'm busy recording opera. Looking at That's what I don't know, man. I'm just looking forward to it. I got a lot in store. I plan on bringing not just facts, but I shall expand a little bit on what exactly I think he is and what I think he believes, because I don't think he knows what he believes.
Damn.
I believe he thinks he's a Christian. I believe he believes in the Bible. I believe that he believes everything that he says he believes. He is 100% genuine, and that's one thing I got to give him. That's one piece of credit I got to give him. He is 100% genuine in everything that he believes. However, I don't think he knows what he believes.
He doesn't know the material that he believes?
Yeah, he's got a certain brand of Christianity that he's espousing, and I don't think he even knows he's espousing that brand of Christianity. But I can tell you this, it's not biblically sound. That's for sure. And he likes to say, Goldstein don't know the Bible because he's a heathen. He cusses. How could he know the Bible? He says fuck. Of course, he would never say that word. But, I got, maybe at least 25 years worth of study under my belt. Because when you're sitting in the hole, that's pretty much all you got is your Bible.
So we got jail, we got fucking prison Bible studies versus, MAGA Bible. This is going to be an interesting clash.
Man,
both of these gentlemen know they book.
So there's at least on every unit, every prison, there's at least 6 or 7 Bryson Grays on the yard. None of them had any action for me. He damn sure won't either. So that's all I gotta say.
The Bible battle. The battle of the Bible. Coming soon. All right, Ghostin, we're gonna lock that in. We're gonna see you next week for that one. Get ready.
Yes, sir, man. I'm ready.
All right, Hotep and Bill.
Hotep and Bill.
Axel Foley with the gifted sub. Salute.
Oh, this a real Hotep brother.
I'm looking forward to that one, man. I get to learn about the Bible. Y'all know I don't know shit about the Bible. I get to learn about the Bible. Add some shit to my repertoire. It's going to be an interesting one, man. I'm going to have to play that one back. The Bible battle. Yeah. The Bible battle. Bible versus Bible. Looking forward to this one. This one's going to be fire. Shout out to Bryson Gray. Great sport. decided he will do that. Check the Cash App. All right, hold on. Let me check my Cash App. Hold on. Daryl E. Mayweather's. Oh, man. Carlos Africa, appreciate you. Daryl, shout out to Daryl. Daryl blessed me. But Daryl blessed me with the Bitcoin. He blessed me with the Bitcoin. That's extra special, near and dear to my heart when you bless me with the Bitcoin. I appreciate that. Shout out to Inky. Inky, I just got a text from Inky. He said that was heat. Shout out to Inky. Inky, you still there? I had a question for Inky. That's why I wanted to ask. Hotep final boss Goldstein. There it is. There it is. There it is. Kick won't take it. I've been trying to be nice. Kick won't take it? Really? Kick, do better. All right, so is that it? Is that it on the calls? I'm gonna give y'all like 60 seconds. If you want to call in, just type 1 in the chat so I make sure I didn't miss nobody. You know we got to get Inky on a debate. You just took the question right out of my mouth. Pause. Who does Inky want to debate? That's what I wanted to ask him. You took that right out of my head. Who does Inky want? We got to get Inky in line. Yeah, I did that. Hold on. Hold on. I know he said he had to do some shit with the kids, but fuck that. Pick up the phone, Inky. Fuck them kids. Don't nobody care about them kids.
Yo.
Inky.
Yo.
We on the show. We on the show, and the people want to know. They said it's time for you to step in the ring.
Oh wow.
They said they want to see you in the Hotepistan Battle Arena. Who is you calling out? Who do you want to debate? Is there anybody you want to debate? What do you want to debate?
Man. Shit. You know what? I'm definitely with the smoke though. I'm not ducking no smoke. Even though I'm definitely Cotto. I'm definitely not ducking any smoke. Yeah. I don't know. I'm with it. I would have to, there had to be something more in my space.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Science.
I ain't trying to jump. I'm definitely not. I'm not trying to jump in the political space, but I might get my head knocked off in the history space over here. Like y'all are very efficient. Like it's history buffs over here. Like yeah. So I might duck. Yeah, I might duck a little. I might have spoke too premature. I might be ducking a little smoke. Like, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure. Thinking about the history, like, yeah, especially after listening to tonight's show, like, that could have went bad. For, like, that was, cause that's like literally that's what Marc Lamont Hill does for a living. Like, we get so used to YouTube, we kind of forget that this isn't entertainment for everybody. Like, this is what people do. You know what I'm saying? Like, and he looked really bad. Like, he looked like, he was. There was a lot of things he just was not, and he wasn't able to, he's able to make some reaches, and, he'll say things and add, a line here or some wording here that on the replay it could look like he just wasn't allowed to get away with anything. You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's what he does for a living.
They saying Billy Carson for you.
What?
They saying Billy Carson.
That'd be dope.
Nah, why'd you respond like that initially? He said what?
like sometimes it's just like so far beneath your like, but I guess you know, it's so far beneath your weight class. You know, you like heavyweight. You know what I'm saying? Like somebody put a flyweight in there. Like you like, wait, what? Or you a senior in high school and somebody like put a middle school kid in there. You like, what?
Oh,
is this
damn.
legal?
Oh, shit. Shots fired. Inky says power level's too high for him.
Yeah, Billy Carson is silly.
Inky versus Tanai. That would be fire. That would be a good matchup for you. Y'all would really educate the community. That would be fucking earth shattering.
Disagree.
But y'all agree on like 99 points. So somebody asked me, they said, what's your stance on COVID?
Mine?
Yeah.
COVID was, I mean, COVID's a flu. COVID's a cold.
COVID's a cold.
Yeah, COVID's a cold.
Mm.
I mean, most colds that people catch in their life is COVID.
That is true. It's the coronavirus. That's true.
Yeah. So, I mean, coronavirus really just picked on people that, their body, they didn't, like even people in the YouTube space, they aren't really taking care of themselves. So people will listen to health videos and they won't really act on it. You know what I'm saying? Like people just, I think a lot of us think that, exercising works in our mind and thinking about healthy food also has a benefit somehow. So, people, that COVID just exposed because people in the middle space, they were all right. But people that was overweight, diabetes, a little high blood pressure, a little this, a little that, take a couple medications on a sneak tip, like that shit was hunting. It was hunting season. You know what I'm saying? So that was most of the people that.
Pro, were you for the vaccine?
Was I for the vaccine? Like for what reason? That would be like a vaccine for a common cold. Like, what is the vaccine? What was it doing? It was like, I mean, I think that things like that have a place for people who are, that don't really do anything for themselves. But an aggressive immune system is the best thing.
Wait, hold on. You can't just glaze past that point. You said that's for people who aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you're talking about health-wise.
Yeah, because you got a lot of people that say, yo, I hate the doctor. You know what I'm saying? I don't like hospitals. And you'd be like, okay, so, what do you eat? When's the last time you had a salad? When's the last time you went to the gym? When's the last time you jogged or jumped some rope? Or it's like, yo, I don't have time like that. I'll be working. I'm like, okay, you trying to get dead. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and you saying that's who
you
saying that's who the vaccine was for, people like that.
I mean, yeah, you're looking for something that's going to be that can autopilot your health. You're looking for something to do the work that you should be doing. You know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people are on a slow, like a lot of people are trying to unalive themselves. You know what I'm saying? Like they don't drink water. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'll be drinking mad water. You know what I'm saying? I use this flavoring. Like, nigga, once you add flavor to it, it's not water. You got a new age Kool-Aid. That's you're adding powders and shit in there. That's not water. Is just water. The only thing you can add to water and it'll still be water is ice. Like it's other than that, you've changed it. You know what I'm saying?
What if I put a little lemon juice in there? I like a little lemon or lime juice in my water.
That's lemonade.
That's lemonade?
That's lemonade.
That's not water no more?
Nope. That's lemon juice.
I just want a little bit for taste though.
I a lot of times I'll have 2 cups. You know what I'm saying? Like I'll drink a juice and then I'll drink a water behind it.
Okay. So why can't we taint the water?
You can, but you just got to make sure that, like people, hydration is everything.
Yeah.
I mean, everything. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, and so a lot of issues that we're having is because I even listen to like the holistic guys, like they don't really know much about the immune system. Like people don't know much about the immune system. A lot of people just know speaking points to sell whatever they're like. If a guy is selling detoxes or if he's selling honey or whatever he's selling, he knows the speaking points to that. But we start asking people to go in depth on what is the immune system. You start right there, like.
I think I
Even
want to
some
get. I want to get one of these meat eaters to debate you on. They love this meat protein situation and really dive into the pros and cons of it all. I think that would be a good debate. Pause. Absolutely.
That'll probably be dope. That'll probably be dope. But we had to find somebody that's ready to jump in there.
Yeah. I mean, I'll put the bait out there, but a lot of these cats usually run scared, but I'll put the bait out there. Dr. Shiva versus Inky, they kind of agree too much. Yeah, I think that's what we got to do.
That immune system thing, man, a lot of people don't know what their immune system is.
Right.
Like they don't know the components. So, because the water is the number one driver of the immune system. So, like,
Inky versus Strong Dad. Inky versus Strong Dad. Where's Strong Dad at? That'll be a nice little one to jump Inky into Hotepistan. Strong Dad love his carnivore diet. I don't know if Strong Dad would accept that debate. I think Strong Dad would bow out of that.
And I've listened to Strong Dad a couple times. I don't agree with everything Strong Dad says, but for most of his shit is like relatively sound shit though. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So that conversation might not have any fireworks. Like it might be some shit we fundamentally disagree on, but it might not be like any fireworks to make it like tonight's shit was hyper palatable because there was a lot of fireworks. We want to make it. We want some fireworks in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need some fireworks. We definitely want some fireworks. That's true, and that's what's hard about setting these debates up. Is like,
find Brother Yaki. That'd be hilarious.
Brother Yaki.
Yeah,
who
Yaki
the fuck
Awakening.
is that? Send me his social.
He's a health teacher that teaches that humans were not designed to drink water.
Wow. Oh, wow. E900 called it. He said, yeah, Yaki awakened.
Yeah. We're not designed to drink water because we have to use cups. And I said, wait, what? This nigga promote a juice fast?
Oh, yeah, that's right, him, yeah. I remember that cat. Okay.
How you promote a juice fast and then say we're not designed to drink water? We're not designed to drink juices either. If your ideology is that we're not designed to drink water because we have to use tools for it,
yeah.
And how you like? I was like, yeah, some of these niggas just views and likes and clicks. Like it's just views, likes, and clicks. Let me say something that goes against the grain, so people could like a car wreck. Let me say something crazy, so people could just rubberneck real quick and see. Be like,
yeah.
That's not gonna work in a debate, though. You're gonna get the brakes beat off you. Yeah, our necks are too short. What?
Ian Copeland, PhD. Have him invite on COVID. That would be dope. All right. Appreciate you, Aiken. What's that?
The new thing now is monkeypox now.
Oh yeah, I meant to ask you about the monkeypox, but I already know where the monkeypox came from. Tell me if I'm wrong. Wasn't that built into the AstraZeneca vaccine?
Well, I was about to say the thing is monkeypox. It's not new. That's
right.
The whole. That's the whole scam with the monkeypox. And they're like, "Yo, monkeypox is out." Like, you mean out still, or you mean Like, because it was supposed to be a scare of an outbreak in like 2021 in the middle of the COVID joint, and that got quiet. And I guess they just got
You
all
know
this
when it
COVID
always
medication.
pops up after, right?
What?
Pride Month.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Yo, well, they got all this stockpiles of shit they gotta sell too. You know, they gotta
Yeah.
get their, you know, 'cause all that shit's not selling anymore. So you know, you gotta figure out something to do. So yeah, no, that's what's up. Though. I'm with all the smoke. I'm with you know, anything that can get my green card stamped and Hotep a stamp. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Absolutely. We're going to keep an eye open. We're going to set that up ASAP. I'm hungry out here. We're going to make it happen. The chat's going to help. Send me that dude's socials
yo, the
you're talking
chat
about.
is vicious, bro. Your
Listen.
chat is like piranha. Like, what the fuck is wrong with that chat? Like, some of that shit I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yo, I'm telling you, Hotepistan is a
Number one-
fascist nation.
Man, number one advice for debaters: do not look in the chat while debating. That you are going to lose your shit. Like, you will not be able to focus on the opponent at hand. Do not look in the chat. The chat is a vicious pool of piranhas, boy. Woo.
That's facts. That's facts. They are a vicious pool of piranhas, and half of them is drunk.
Yo, I was like, it's crazy. If you say something too crazy, then the rest of the chat will get you in the chat. Like, yeah, the chat is wild. That shit can turn into quicksand quick. The chat will eat itself. Like, it's wild in there.
Yo, big facts. It's heavy manners in the chat.
Yeah, I guess that's a whole nother space by itself. So you got the show and then you got the chat.
The chat's a whole show by itself.
Yeah, the chat is a whole nother space. Like,
Indeed. I appreciate you, bro.
yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Hotep and Bill. All right, I want to do one more thing before we get out of here. I'm going to attempt to call Shaka. Let me see if I can do this. This nigga going to cuss me out. Watch this. Is he streaming right now? Let me see.
Hello. Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Hotep Jesus. All right, I don't think he's streaming right now. This nigga never pick up. He never pick up. We've been playing phone tag for like a week now. He probably researching some shit. This is the hours he be up. This is his afternoon period.
Hotep, you've reached Shaka almost. Give me a minute.
All right, let me just leave my phone right here. Nah, not him. Shaka Atmos. We've been playing phone tag for like a week now, and I was just like, I just got off of the phone with Inky, and I was thinking about the whole Sarnetta crew, and I was like, man, I should call Shaka, while I'm here, and try one more time. All right, for Kelson. Kelson's a founder. Kelson said try one more time. Let's see.
Hello. Please state your name after the tone, and Google Voice will try to connect you.
Pick up the phone, man. We live, man. Let's see. I told him he never should have cut his lock, but he said he might grow it back. Yeah, he gonna scream on me in the morning, exactly. Then I'm not gonna be available.
Hotep, you've reached Shaka almost.
Yeah, he ain't picking up. That nigga would have picked up the first time. Why Hotep's always got a Google Voice number too? We always got a Google Voice number. What's up with that? Niggas just be screening calls and shit. Lauren, I'm telling you, he's up. He probably like knee deep in like some research right now, putting together some presentation. Like if it's 12 a.m., this is 12 noon for him. So he's like either like he's probably like knee deep in his work. That nigga's a night owl. He's not sleeping. I know him. He's not sleeping. Or he might be outside. That nigga might be outside right now. He might be in fucking because when I met the nigga Shaka Atmos, it was like 11:30 p.m. and he was standing in the middle of Times Square. Like around this time is when I met Shaka Atmos, just having a meal in the middle of Times Square. So he might not even be home right now. We need the recording of him cussing HJ out. Yo, it hasn't been a single time I've been on the phone with Shaka that he hasn't cussed me out. He ain't cussing me out every single time we speak. Such a brutal relationship. Very abusive. It's my man's in them, but it's very abusive relationship. Wow, I gotta get cussed out. You know, every single time. He writing Osiris poems and shit. Facts. That's probably exactly what he doing. Gotta break you down to build you up. Yeah. That's that OG shit. Anyway, man, it's midnight. I'm out of here, man. Take my ass to sleep. Another epic stream. Shout out to everybody that donated. Shout out to all my subs. Where y'all at? E900 seems to be a new name. Shout out to Lauren with the 5 gifted. Roscoe with the 10 gifted. E900. Descending to Loki with, I think Loki had like 20 gifted subs tonight. Axel Foley, Kev's mom, Kelson, Knuckle Brew, Roscoe, Natty Smurf. Natty Smurf is on the leaderboard. IBEW Bonds. It's on me, V. Marcus Watkins. Appreciate you. JC 80 times 5. Papa Hotep. Kamar Daniel. Shout out to Kamar Daniel. Appreciate you. Great debate though, man. Thank you for hanging out with me, chat. As always, you guys just continue to outdo yourself. Some of y'all need some help. Some of y'all need a therapist. You know what I'm saying? But I'll see y'all back here again. Maybe I'll grift tomorrow. I don't know. I'm fucking grimed. So if I pop up tomorrow, just know that, I saw something that was important. So if you see me live, just come in because I felt it was important enough to stream about. I wouldn't do it unless it was something important to stream about. But be well, stay merry, tell somebody in your family that you love them. And as always, Hotep and Bill.
2, 1, boom. Hotep Jesus.
Of all the Jesuses I know, he's the Hotepiest. Social scientist and YouTube host, Hotep Jesus.
How the fuck do you get a name like Hotep Jesus?
The one and only Hotep Jesus.
Ryan Sharp, better known to the world as Hotep Jesus.
Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus. Hotep Jesus.
Hotep, you're a genius. HotepJesus.com.
Somebody said, what do you think you are, some kind of Hotep Jesus?
Ooh,
and
that's
I was
good.
Just like, ooh, that's sexy. Yes, I do think I'm Hotep Jesus.